Damn it, what a knob. Fuck's sake. Oh no.
Damn it, what a knob.
Oh gosh. A basic thing just to come off mute, right? Oh, well, you missed everything. I maybe gave the performance of my life there at the opening. Excuse me, I'm even hoarse now. I put my heart and soul into it, and it's after going into the depths of lost time, lost and gone forever. Shit, anyway. I doubt if I'll be able to ever reproduce something as wondrous and beautiful as that. It just, one of those things, everything came together, the acoustics in the room, my voice, my guitar playing, it was almost divine, and you missed it all. Well, at least I got to hear it anyway, so that's something. I'm kidding. I'm not speaking too long, I think. Just open up with a couple of songs all along the Watchtower, and my usual heart and lute. So yeah, apologies for that. Fuck's sake. I should have checked, but I had up the lyrics because I wasn't putting on my camera, so I just put up the lyrics. So yeah, I was just talking away a little bit as well. So will I repeat myself? I don't think I need to really. I was just basically talking about how this probably won't be for everyone in relation to Sergeant Pepper's. It's not everyone was a Beatles fan, and and there's probably a lot of maybe younger people as well who never really quite got into the Beatles. I'm sure they would have heard of them, but they're completely unaware of this greater puzzle that's going on. Yesterday, I decided to go through this thread, both for myself, first and foremost, because now I have a different key or a different piece of the puzzle to be able to apply. So a lot more things will make sense. And we'll see just how prominent a role Alice in Wonderland plays. It's a central role. And we'll go in remembering that Paul is dead as the dodo. Paul is the dodo. Paul represents the flat earth map, the face of the flat earth, if you will. Or again, it's all about flat earth realization. So we can add that knowledge to the rest of the coding that's done, and you'll see just how genius it is. I won't get bogged down on any particular aspect. If I don't understand something or you don't understand something, just move on, because as we go through it, everything will sort of come clear and come together for us. Like, that's one thing for sure. But you will see just how intricate, just how fiendishly clever and genius it is, and just how pertinent it is. It's a sort of a connection in one sense between the past and the future. It's 50 years ago since Sgt. Pepper's came out, but it's more pertinent and more alive now than ever. And it's sort of like a center ground between the past and the future, a connecting bridge. Lewis Carroll and where we are now, trying to work out the puzzle that was encoded within the work of Lewis Carroll, who I say didn't exist. And yeah, again, another front man or front name for this hidden hand, well, the hidden hand. That's the only way to put it, right? You just notice a power and a force behind everything. The way I look upon it, the highest has everything in control. Everything is being unraveled. Everything is being rolled out. And all of these different clues are put there for us to unravel it and solve it. Add your own particular inimitable understanding to everything that you see and hear, and come to accept. Then you can formulate your own picture and answer your own questions. No one can answer my questions for me, right? Because first of all, people don't know my questions. I don't even know my questions. So the best I can try and do is to hope to answer my own questions myself, or formulate my own questions in order to facilitate some sort of answer. Sorry about that again. I'll get straight into it and say welcome to everyone in chat. And yeah, it won't be for everyone, right? It won't be for everyone. So do what you will in the meantime. There's some fantastic connections made, as I said. And I see you in chat, Martin. So I'll just give a shout out. How you doing, Martin? Yeah, I know you said you're into the Beatles, so you'll definitely enjoy this. Let me put the link in the chat for anyone who wants to follow along. And you'll definitely enjoy this. And I'm sure you'll, if you haven't come across it already, you will you will, yeah, you'll get engrossed in it, because again, it's such a wondrous story being told here. And again, it's all of our stories, so it's telling us about our past, our present, I guess, and our future in one sense. And it is the story of the flat earth. That's the way I look upon Alice in Wonderland, and that's how significant I think it is. I think I was saying this yesterday. I was on the German Flat Earth hangout, and just chatting briefly to one or two guys, one guy in particular, and I was just asking him about Alice in Wonderland. You know, what's the story with Alice in Wonderland? Is it a top book for children? And yeah, he immediately said it was a classic. You know, and everyone knew Alice in Wonderland. And when you discovered that it's the third outside of the Bible and the works of Shakespeare, it's the third most published series of books, as in Wonderland, Alice Through Looking Glass, on Earth. So that's very significant in itself. And me, myself, I was delighted to hear that, because I'd already decided that the Bible, and the works of Shakespeare and the works of Lewis Carroll were written by the same force, power, whatever you want to call it, which is the hidden hand. That's just the best way to put it, right? The HH. What is the nature of that power? What is the ultimate motivation? These are sort of still the mysteries, but it's within these works, or within the works of the hidden hand in general, that the story has been told. And I think a lot of us are finding that as well. I know Martin is down his own very interesting path of inquiry in terms of completely fabricated history, and it's a fascinating path, isn't it? And I'm not sure if you've researched or come across Google 1649ish, Martin. If you haven't, I would. I don't have it myself, nor have I looked too deeply into it. I've looked a little bit into it ages ago, and Delcroix has the hard copy himself, and it's a massive tome. It's like, you know, you'd need a fucking wheelbarrow to carry it around. It's almost that big. But yeah, the premise being that there's no original source material to be found anywhere earthwide that the author could find, and that the author is Nico Haupt himself. He was one of the original no-planers, so big connection to 9/11. So this is a big clue for us as well. 9/11 intimately connected with everything that we're going through and realizing at the minute. And I made a great find recently regarding the Oculus. Well, Jesus, I mean, it all connecting together in Chambers Street, would you believe? Chambers Street Tube Station, well, Heart Chambers of the Heart, My Heart in Louvre, Paul's heart comes into the very first page. All the lines, all the intersecting lines go through Paul's heart. So, you know, Chambers Street, we find this Oculus. It's, how would you describe it? It's underneath the WTC, so right in the heart of 9/11 country, and there in the ground you have a disc-shaped Earth, whatever you want to call it, where all the continents sort of jumbled up, but placed throughout the disc, with an eye in the center that we would otherwise maybe identify as the North Center. So yeah, all of these things have sort of very intimate connections to one another, and intimately connected ultimately to flat Earth, well, and beyond. And once we find out the nature of our home, right, that leaves some questions answered, but yeah, there's still bigger questions yet, and that's the nature, well, of our own home, which is our body, ourselves, you know, where we abide. And I think they're dealt with as well. So the external and the internal is not answered. You answer these things yourself. You find out the truth yourself. And I think, you know, we are greater beings. So the truth can't be told us. We have to learn it, and we have to appreciate it for what it is. And this is where all of these, I guess, instructions in a big way. You're instructed to do your own thinking, to connect the dots. And when you do, then you see dots connect from all sides. And I made the equivalence or the equation with the pyramid and the capstone in a sense, but a pyramid in general, if you're, in terms of understanding, right, if you're down at the bottom of, you don't understand much, you have a very limited outlook, a very limited perspective. And as you walk along the perimeter of the pyramid, looking around, you know, you get to see and take in the scenery, but, you know, again, very restricted. As you make your way up the layers, you know, your understanding increases every time, and you have a greater span, and you have a greater scope that you can look out over, and also there's less of a path to walk, until eventually when you come close by the top or the pinnacle, and then, well, then you're king of the earth, right? You can see down, look down upon everything, and a simple turn will have you taken everything in. So yeah, if we think about that in terms of our understanding, and under nous, the sun backwards, N-U-S, it's been popping up quite a lot for me recently. But yeah, it's that ability of the mind to distinguish truth from untruth, or reality from unreality. And indeed, that becomes the biggest question for us these days. What is real? The Beatles will tell us nothing is real, right? Sergeant Pepper's will tell us nothing is real, but they'll also tell us there's nothing to get hung about. It's strawberry fields forever. I heard the strawberry fields equated to the heroin or the poppy plant, you know, in that sort of dreamy, drug-induced state. But yeah, there's a much greater story that's clearly awaiting a telling. And I suppose in one sense, this is what it's all about, right? Certainly for me, in my own terms, it's connected so many things. It really has. And I've come to view everything differently, from obviously the earth itself, but not just that, from chemtrails to even fluoride in the water, to, you know, the Illuminati, to Satan, to the sun, to everything, you know. And it's irrelevant whether I'm wrong or right. The point is that I am making my way forward in terms of my story, and these things seem to be making a connection for me. And I'm not trying to express that or push that on top of anybody else, because I do realize we're all in the same boat in one sense, but it's sort of in our own boats, making within that same boat, if you will. And yeah, ultimately, I think we all get to the same destination, but you have to row your own race in the interim. So yeah, welcome, and I think I'll start now. Okay, A4 thinks I'm a shell because I get paid to pretend to be the crazy dodo guy. That's hilarious, Adam. And I loved your joke. Why did the dodo cross the road? Why did the dodo cross the road? So Peachy could chill for it. That's funny, man. That's funny. I think you're too smart, Adam. You're always talking about being in flat Earth for longer than most, right? So how far have you come? How far have you come? You're still very quiet as to your actual position on anything. So I mean, you know, what have you learned in however long it's been, 3 or 4 years? It's the question, right? I'm probably a flat earther, maybe after you, but 2013, right? So I certainly know I've come a whole hell of a long way, especially in the last 6 months. So maybe you're looking in the wrong places, Adam, and maybe you're not quite thinking about it as well. I mean, you have to do your own research on this. The dodo, everyone is looking for a kind of a nice, neat, short video or something. And I mean, how far has that taken you? Look at all the videos that have been put out there. Yet so many of the basic and simple questions, unanswerable for the most part amongst flat earthers, and all there are guesses and speculations, but there's nothing solid. So what are the videos? How have the videos helped you? This is the point. This is why these type of hangouts, I look upon them differently. So it's you mightn't get it, and I have certainly spoken enough about everything, man. You remember I'm up to about 60 odd hangouts. Yesterday I was on for over 7 hours speaking, not about the dodo all the time, but it's thrown in here and there. So I can't go back to like 4 or 5 months ago, and also I can't just direct you to someplace easy, like some 5-minute video that would satisfy you. So yeah, if you're interested enough, you will look deeper into the dodo. It is of the utmost significance in the flat earth terms. And once you realize that it never existed, then you'll ask yourself why. You've already admitted that the dodo upside down on the Gleason's map is, or the Gleason's map turned upside down is a dodo. So that's your clue, man. Do you not know that this is how the real clues are transmitted? There's a sort of a superficial. This is what Mark Sargent's clues are about. Sure, there's the superficial layer clues where he invokes Admiral Byrd and all the different, planetarium, terrarium, all this sort of stuff. But there's the hidden clues as well. One of them was room 3237 that he recommended with J. Widener regarding the moon. But the name 237 itself is your clue. 2 by 3 by 7 is 42. And, we've already made the 42 and the 420 connection with the dodo. In more ways than one. So yeah, you're not aware of that. So when you're making your judgment, you're not in possession of all the facts. So you're judging prematurely, and that's why I don't mind. That's why I don't mind if you think I'm I'm shilling for the dodo. I mean, imagine in the fucking spy office or whatever. Who's going to take on this part? I suis dodo, so I was the man for the job. I'll take it on. Yeah, no, there's much more to that, Adam. And when you do think about it, you find a dodo everywhere, from Homer Simpson to I'm not going to go into this again, but it's placed into the public consciousness. Dodo is the first word that millions of children earthwide learn to associate with a feeling, a soothing feeling, right? A good feeling. Dodo associated with 420. Ask any cannabis appreciator. I mentioned 420 to them. You bring a smile to their face. Another happy time. A doob. You can be sure that a doob is called a doob because it's when you mirror the last 2 letters, you get dodo. And the dodo with the 420 connection, I've made that. It'll be 420 years. Since the dodo was discovered in 1598 to 2018, and I say 2018 was always written to be the year the past is more, or the future is more certain than the past. And yeah, this is all about getting back to the future. Back to the future, you had to travel 88 miles per hour, right? Well, 88 is HH, where he talked about the hidden hand, different works. So yeah. Yeah, it's a much greater story, man. And look, I know you're in possession of maybe extra information that some of us aren't. You didn't put up that Freemasonic ring in your avatar. If you didn't want anyone to know about that, because you'd go, well, someone send me a ring. Let me get this straight. Someone send me a Masonic ring. Come join us in the post. I'm going to go on a conspiracy forum now where, you don't want to really be saying these sort of things, because even if what I'm saying is true, people get suspicious about it and they won't know what to believe. So I better not even mention that. No, but you don't do that. You put it straight up in an avatar picture. Look at the ring I got. So yeah, there's something else. There's a different game going on with you, as there is with the vast majority as well, Adam. But I'd take you on your word, man, that you don't know about the dodo, and I'll tell you something for nothing. I don't care what you know. In flat Earth and beyond, if you don't know about the dodo and its significance, well, you're not in possession of the whole truth. And that makes sense to me as well. No matter what organization you join, you're only going to get limited truth. Every man has to walk his path. Every man has to live his life, right? So even if you have, and you are in possession of some deeper or core information, that doesn't mean you're in possession of every truth. So yeah, I'll take it that you don't know about the dodo, Adam, and yeah, you've been in here, you've been in this flat Earth for how many years? 3, 4, 5, whatever. Take a fucking week out or something. Take a week out and go through the dodo, and then you'll find out the significance, and maybe some of your own questions that you still have unanswered might be answered. But that's up to you, right? That's up to you. So you can call me what you like. I don't mind. I have a thick skin. So let me get on to this anyway. And just say, sorry. Yeah, welcome to everyone who's in chat. And yeah, you'll enjoy this, especially if you. Do I need to give out any wrenches? I think everything is going fine. Is that? Test of Truth. How you doing, man? How you doing? You can see again. You'll enjoy this, but you can see these. This is how the truth is encoded, or different clues are encoded anyway, and we have to sort of have eyes to see. You have to have an interest in the first place. But yeah, it has been projected at you from all angles. Again, music and the very effective medium it is in terms of transmitting subliminal ideas or hidden clues is used to its fullest extent. And yeah, this is all of our story, as they say, whether you can appreciate it or not. I can't pierce that. So yeah, let me share my screen. Okay, Adam, come on, let me deal with this comment then. Pete never talks about the actor-based reality. This is how I know he's a shill. I talk about it all the time, man. I mean, ask Nathan Oakley here, right? Ask Martin, ask so many other people. I've called so many people actors. I say it all the time. All the top people are actors. The ball actors are easy to identify. The flat Earth actors, not so easy, but they're still there in troves. I mean, I talk about this all the time, and have a reserved judgment on making any judgment against the man or the woman, because I don't know what purposes they're playing the role, and for all I know, my thinking is as well, I do bear it in mind that they could be involved in a nobler lie, playing a part, but for a greater good, for a greater end. And then I would be totally unjustified in any harsh judgment, right? Because I would do the same myself if I was privy to certain information. If someone told me, listen, there's a big awakening coming, in the meantime, we have to sort of help awaken the people by challenging them, by playing a role. Are you in? I say, absolutely, man. There's a great end at stake, and this is what we aim for. So, in that sense, that's why I reserve judgment. But absolutely, I've called out more people than anybody else. I think lots of people will agree with that, and I constantly talk about it. So, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. Because yeah, anyways, everyone is free to think what they like, and of course we should be questioning everybody, and we shouldn't be getting emotionally attached to anybody anyway. This is all about the information, and I don't have many people who listen in, and that's fine. Well, there's 31 now, so for play, but yeah, that's not why I'm doing this. And yeah, this is about us progressing. Or me, let's just speak about me progressing in terms of following these clues. They're definite clues that are laid there for us, and it's not just clues that were laid yesterday. These are clues that go back 50 years, and then they go back again to Lewis Carroll, which is 150 years. I mean, this is how long running this is. And once again, the Beatles, the top of their game. They're the best band ever. So any messages that they might be, and indeed are putting across, you can be sure are very significant, especially once we consider they're a manufactured band, and once we as well consider the possibility that the hidden hand, this great force or power that's behind pretty much everything, is at work here as well. So yeah, on that note, yeah, if I missed anyone in chat, yeah, sorry about that. But let me continue. Now, will I go back to? I'm not going to go back to the start again because it'll all be covered. And again, I won't dwell on too many areas. I'll go into the chat occasionally just to see if there's any observations or questions or anything like that. But for the most part, I'll just be reading and you can be following the clues. Yesterday, we got to... You don't need to know about the story as well. This is where Edgar Allan Poe ties into everything. And, you know, we'll realize that intricately connected with this whole Sergeant Pepper's puzzle is Alice in Wonderland. It's pretty much everything associated with it. And Edgar Allan Poe then is connected to Alice in Wonderland as well. We have now the context of Flat Earth and the dodo. We've already solved the Sergeant Pepper's puzzle with the walrus's paw. The walrus moustache is to be found under the dodo's wing. Pointing north to the north wing where the hidden hand emerges from. And then that takes us on to greater realizations. So yeah, this is... I'll just open it again then because I'm going to go through it all, and I'll read pretty quickly because there's a lot to go through. Okay. Jarface, nothing too much came to me. Revolver, of course, is an album from the Beatles, and Revolver implies a sort of return to a previous fixity. And ultimately, I think everything is in a state of evolution. We are getting back to the future. So the future was a state of affairs that was in existence in the past, and then came the destruction, be it in reality as we would define it, or be it all part of simulation and gameplay. So yeah, this is most excellent thread, and I look forward to just having some realizations or just make connections that I didn't make the first time around. So I'll read quite a few pages. I'm not going to stay on for an hour and a half, maybe get through 2 or 3 pages. And again, it won't be for everybody, but it should be. Yeah. So okay, and hopefully it will inspire people to go through Alice in Wonderland, Alice Through the Looking Glass again, and, you know, take it from there. Anyway, after much consideration, I decided to post this here before publishing it widely. The Beatles played a lovely prank, so this is what he calls it, a prank. It's much more than that one. Anyway, Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band is a brilliant parody of Lewis Carroll's Through the Looking Glass and Edgar Allan Poe's Gold Bug, complete with a treasure map and a hidden treasure. So this is the important thing. We already found a hidden treasure. X marks the spot beneath the dodo's wing, which is indicative of the North Center, which is her true home, right? And it's Shambhala, or paradise beyond. And then we connected that with 420 as well, and the number of years since the dodo was discovered to 2018. So that's that context. And also then the hidden hand, or the theta, or the H, or the 8 is revealed to be behind everything. So yeah, we claimed a treasure, right? In one sense anyway. Well, actually, more than one sense. So anyway, the prank plays out in a word and picture puns. In word and picture puns. The treasure went undiscovered for 42 years. This is the pertinent part here. 42 years. He didn't have to put that in. So it's only when we have a different context for it that we see this as a clue for us, until I found it. Now I'm going to tell you how to find it. I shall begin very near the end. Poe's Gold Bug is a story about a golden beetle and a cryptic message containing veiled instructions for how to find a cache of Captain Kidd's buried pirate treasure. To wit, fuck it. Excellent. Remember I was talking about Kid A? Kid A. See, this is what I'm talking about. Kid A, Radiohead. The album Kid A is the soundtrack to the movie that was presented to the world, to the earth on 9/11. So whatever they did in reality, took down safely buildings behind the scenes. They presented us with a movie that was pre-prepared. Kid A was released in 2000, and yeah, it is the soundtrack. It's the Dark Side of the Moon uh, to Alice, or to, and this is pertinent as well. It's the Dark Side of the Moon to Wizard of Oz. Kid A is to 9/11. It's the soundtrack. But the only thing is that Dark Side of the Moon was written after Alice, or sorry, The Wizard of Oz was released. Not so with Kid A. That was released in 2000. So here we have Captain Kidd, and even Kid A itself. Radiohead, another clue. This is where it's connecting. All connects. Just move down here briefly. Um, I again looked and made it out to be a human skull. So Radiohead, Captain Kidd, Kid A. Again, it's all connecting. Tom York's name, Thom Yorke, Thom, half of Behemoth, right? But his nickname as a child was Dodo. His nickname, and this is all official history of Thom Yorke, the biggest band in the world now, probably. His nickname is Dodo, and also Salamander. I understand. No, of course, his nickname wasn't Dodo or Salamander, but I understand why they're saying his nickname was Dodo and Salamander. And Dodo and the Salamander are intimately connected as well. We think of a salamander. Dodo is the face of the flat Earth post inundation. Salamander is a creature a little sort of lizard-like creature that will give up its limbs or extremities to save its central core. This is and then they will grow back. The salamander's limbs will grow back. It's what happened to the Earth. The barrier collapsed, the trees collapsed, as I picture it, and yeah, to save the central core. Um, Lots of stuff had to go right, and that's why we had an inundation. The whole Earth was inundated. Anyway, that's just Captain Kidd. So let me get on with it. And I see Dave High is in chat, and I know you've read this, Dave, so you might be interested as well. You might get a greater context for what you've read, and yeah, I hope you enjoy. So yeah, here's from the book. It's a short story as well. I think it's only maybe 50 pages, and I never read it myself, and I don't feel the need to either. So here we go. A good glass in the Bishop's Castle, in the Devil's Seat, main branch, seventh limb, east side. Shoot from the left eye of the Death's Head. A beeline from the tree through the shot 50 feet out. In Poe's story, the Bishop's Castle was an old school name for a remote rock formation. High up the eastern face was a small ledge, which the protagonist discerned to be the Devil's Seat. Reading, I let myself down to the ledge and found that it was impossible to retain a seat upon it except in one particular position. I proceeded to use the glass. My attention was arrested by a circular rift or opening in the foliage of a larger tree that overtopped its fellows in the distance. In the center of this rift I perceived a white spot, but could not at first distinguish what it was. Adjusting the focus of the telescope, I again looked, and now made it out to be a human skull, which is very important indeed. The skull, our pathway to freedom is, what we want to do is get our skull ringing, especially the marble arch, or D-Marble. D-Marble, aptly chosen name, this latest character to enter the scene. Seems like a really nice guy, right? But, another actor on the stage, what else can you say? But yeah, ultimately, the clue is in the name. D-Marble, marble arch, the top of your head, be it frequency and vibration. We can get that ringing. But I think what we have to do is flood our brain with this vital fluid. We have a month. Apparently, we have a monthly fluid which descends the spine and also ascends. So we have to imbue that fluid. But then again, your vital bodily fluids in the forms of your semen as men. I'm not sure, but what women are going to do here. But yeah, we need to store that and hang on to that. And it's via the mouth, M-O-T-H, thumb, or M-O, put the U in the M-O-T-H, and you have your mouth, and especially through your teeth. Then your teeth is H, teeth backwards. So through the teeth, it's the teeth to get to the H. So yeah, it's literally about setting up a frequency and a vibration through your body, and by repeating the mantra, be he must, be he me, be he me. So he is the highest. That's the highest power. I can't use the term God because there is a distinction between God and the highest. I think God and Lord God, etc., are all part of the construct. So they're missing aspects. If you look at the G, not to dwell on this, I'm sorry, I will continue, but if you look at the G, if it's all about the theta is a 0 with a cross line going through it. It's a 1 and a 0 almost, but you can see that the G is missing aspects. And of course, the G is next to the H as well. You can get a theta sign from the H by just at the top and bottom pillars, just fold them in one another, circle them in one another, and there you have your theta. So this is why it's about the H. It's the 0 and the infinity. It's the ineffable. It's the alpha and the omega. There's no way of defining it. It's just outside our any sense of um, ability or any ability of ours to even start describing it. So that's where the theta comes in. And yeah, we do realize there is this greater power in play, and I suppose ultimately in full control. If you look at your keyboard, BHU8. So this everything I'm seeing is implying that we ourselves are part of the highest. And we can return to that, I guess, within this life. We can come to that realization within this experience, within this game we are experiencing. And yeah, maybe ultimately that was what the purpose of having this experience is. And if we just run with that, then all of these clues are placed there for us. We're in a state of forgetfulness. Once we come to certain realizations, then we can apply, we can understand that there is a greater game, a greater puzzle, and with all puzzles, it comes with its own set of clues. And this is getting to the heart and the nub matters when we're going through this thread and analyzing the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album. Now, let me just say as well, don't get involved in intricacies. Don't say to yourself, well, okay, I don't know much about this now, and it's sort of too much to take on, so I'm not going to bother. I would worry about that. If you keep listening, lots of stuff you'll be able to equate to, because there's lots of connections made with popular bands or popular characters, popular actors, all of these things. It's a grander story that's woven together, and it does interconnect with everything. So anyway, sorry, let me continue on. Upon this discovery, I was so sanguine as to consider the enigma solved, for the phrase main branch, seventh limb, east side could refer only to the position of the skull upon the tree, while shoot from the left eye of the death's head admitted also of but one interpretation in regard to a search for a buried treasure. I perceived that the design was to drop a bullet from the left eye of the skull, and that a beeline, or in other words, a straight line, drawn from the nearest point of the trunk through the shot, or the spot where the bullet fell, would indicate a definite point, and beneath this point, I thought it at least possible that a deposit of value lay concealed. So in other words, this is the upshot of it all. Within this Edgar Allan Poe story, Goldbug, we all know Dallas Goldbug, right? Dallas Goldbug connects to JFK. JFK connects to 9/11. JFK also connects to King Arthur, the death of the king, the killing of the king, they called it. And wasn't his dwelling or something Camelot? They associated all this mythology with him. So again, he's a mythological figure. JFK, he's just another actor putting across a message. If you take the literal, you lose the meaning. So everything connects, and just the ultimate significance of Arthur is you are Thor. We're all kings and queens in our own right. If not us, who? But in terms of kings and queens, the image that was brought up in your mind, I guess, is a different sense to the real meaning of the word. And yeah, Arthur, you are Thor in his frequency hammer. It's via your ability to generate frequencies combined with a certain mantra and an understanding the how it functions, or how it's set to function or due to function, well, that can set you free. So yeah, you are Thor in that sense, and the sword is in the stone for you to remove. I can say myself, I have removed a sword from the stone, and I don't want to dwell on that, but I've talked about that before. And it is about a frequency and a vibration. That's the S word. From the stone is the S tone, which is the TH, and also the stone, double meaning, can be the pineal gland. So when we remove these harsh vibrations from our systems and replace them with these harmonious, significant vibrations in, well, I say behemoth, be, he, me, be, he, me, and I talked about the TH, and so Infinite Dodo Society added that on today. Be, he, me, theta, th, or be, and I think that that's ultimately the meaning. The th itself, yeah, the h represents exactly that, the theta. Yeah. So this is the ultimate idea, and this is the context for everything. I talked about the th. Yeah. Jesus, sorry, just briefly, because it is important. This is what's going on physiologically. Is when you be, he, me, th. First of all, these are harmonious frequencies, vibrations, and there's we know the word be connects with the word is. I am, you are, he is. The best we can hope to say is I am, right? We can't sort of give life to anything outside of our own direct experiences and our own direct being, I guess, in one fundamental sense. When you start saying, well, he is, she is, they are, it is, then you are giving life via utterances to something that might have no life at all. And again, look at all that energy. If we are creators, look at all that energy that we wasted giving life to a dead globe. We certainly use the term is in connection with the reality of a spinning sphere Earth. You know, so yeah, be he is the highest, right? And me, again, all the most basic of terms. So at the very foundation, at the very fundamental, be you an aspect of the H, the theta, which is the th at the end. But that practice of the th, be, he, me. So I think that has to be drawn out, right? So by that very practice itself, I talked about the bodily fluids, letting them build up. So you can all picture, of course, we've all experienced a climax, where your vital bodily fluids exit your body, evacuate, to too much satisfaction in some sense, a sense of loss in another sense. So we're looking to anticlimax, which is to bring the bodily fluids upwards, and it's via this elongated hiss almost, and that's the th sound as well, where the s is really you have still remains, the s sound remains, but obviously we can see there's a big difference in terms of that. Transmission, one is more harsh and grating, and the other is much more soothing and soft. But yeah, it's literally that th sound through the teeth at the end that I picture these fluids can be drawn up. And yeah, it's all about raising fluids up the spine, flooding the brain. Ultimately, this is what I'm saying. Ultimately, and yeah, activating your pineal gland and getting the top of your head to ring, the dome, the marble arch, and then you receive illumination. So this is how I picture it, and yeah, this is how it seems to be presented as well. Just to say, I talked about the wasp and the wig. This is exactly what they're telling you, and yeah, also recommended to put a handkerchief or a bandage up around your jaw when you're practicing that mantra, that vibration, because then it is transmitted all that more effectively. So anyway, that's a beeline. So yeah, the story is there for us. Edgar Allan Poe, Goldbug, and these are the instructions. So literally, the Beatles designed a cover around the cover of Sergeant Pepper around this story. Edgar Allan Poe, I take it as another Lewis Carroll, just another front man or someone who didn't exist. Is just a name associated with the clues of the hidden hand, and yeah, that's where we're at. So let me again, I get diverted very easy, but in the story, so yeah, it's about following these instructions, finding a starting point on Sergeant Pepper, and yeah, taking it from there. So this is the basic premise of it, and the treasure hunt is found in the map, or in the cover itself, and the characters, and being able to decipher the different word plays and make the different connections. So we'll make our way through that as we continue on. I better read a bit quicker now. In the story, a real pirate treasure is eventually found by following the instructions. The heroes drop the golden beetle through the dead sailor's eye and thus locate the correct spot to dig, where they find a buried footlocker full of treasure. Think about the lyrics to Walrus. Yellow matter dropping from a dead dog's eye. Sailors are called dogs. Gold is yellow matter. So this makes much more sense, doesn't it, than all the cryptic and what we were told were drug-induced lyric content from the Beatles. It's anything but. It's all a grander puzzle. And yeah, well, there's your Beatles, the Beatles connection. So the whole band is named in association with this golden beetle that has been dropped through the dead sailor's eye in the story of Edgar Allan Poe, Goldbug. So yeah, this is, you can sort of see maybe the greater significance that's starting to appear here. So anyway, to recap, it says use a looking glass to fix the location of the hole in the death's head. Drop me a line through the left eye, starting point of view. Beeline through the shot will precisely indicate the correct location to dig. Find a treasure, and baby, you're a rich man too. It's not quite that simple though. Anyway, the image below shows what happens when we use another kind of looking glass, a mirror, on the Sergeant Pepper drum. If we reflect the top half of the drum back in itself, we find a message, "He died," pointing straight at Paul. This well-known trick has been misinterpreted by the Paul is dead crowd for 42 years. Again, 42 years. Well, we've solved that as well. Paul is dead is a dodo, right? This is ultimately what it's all about. And it's all about flat earth, the fool on the hill. And I said I was going to learn that song for the next time, actually. So I will learn that song for the next time. So yeah, maybe that's the way it was written, for All Along the Watchtower did not come through tonight. So yeah, 42 years again. The real purpose behind the clever bit of mirror play is because Paul plays the role of the death's head in Sergeant Pepper's treasure hunt, right? So here we go. When you mirror the drum, this is what you get. You get 1, 1, IX, he, die, and this diamond is pointing up straight at Paul. Everything in the album is meticulously panned. It's a work of art. It's a work of genius. And again, there's nothing beyond the powers of this force. There really isn't. It is a work of genius, and you'll just be flabbergasted as you make your way through. But yeah, there we go. So he's the death. So the Paul's dead crew, yeah, took this and ran with it, and of course Paul was replaced. This is clear as day. We now know, of course, that the original Paul is back was back a few years ago as caretaker of the original family home, Paul McCartney family home in Liverpool. It's the same guy, and again, this is another part of the puzzle. The way I interpreted it, in connection with the dodo, the dodo's nearest relative was the homing pigeon, the Liverpool pigeon. And there we have Paul, who is the dodo, went back to his home, right? So this is all a script and a narrative that's been played out. And yeah, when you take it literally, you lose all the meaning. So anyone who's stuck in the Paul is dead controversy, then yeah, you're losing all of the rest. So let's just continue. Paul's head is portrayed on the limb of a tree, just as the story requires. Is it? Oh yeah, there's a problem now. Hang on. Why is there a problem zooming in here? Is it? I can't see a limb of a tree there, can you? I can't make it out from here anyway. We'll take his word for it anyway. Okay. Paul's head is portrayed on the limb of a tree. Let me see if it's easier to see here. Okay, anyway, let's just continue. Paul's head is portrayed on the limb of a tree just as the story requires. Sergeant Pepper shows a palm tree on the far right, but as you can see in the image below, there are two palms on Sergeant Pepper. One is literal, the other is a picture pun over Paul's head. Right, so that's clear to see. When we made our way to the Economist 2015 puzzles, and our starting point was Putin, who had the hidden hand over his head. And of course, that resolved into the dodo and Mauritius. So, yeah, that's a different story. One is literal, the other is a picture pun over Paul's head, an open hand, a palm forward. Okay, the arm that holds the palm over Paul's head may rightly be called a limb. Oh, now we see that. Okay, okay. So Paul cleverly portrays a death's head on the limb of the palm. That's to work that out is amazing, right? And it says to further sweeten the pun, the man's name is Paul M. Okay, so yeah, here we see over Paul. Paul is a central position. As you mirror the drum, he die. So this is our starting point. Again, the hidden hand reveals the same. So the palm, yeah, associating with the story on the limb. The end of your arm is a limb. Yeah, so that's cool. And then Paul M. Right. Well, excellent. Palm. Paul M. Palm. Paul M. Palm. Palm. Right. John emphasizes that Paul is the dead man in being for the benefit of see, I don't know what the song is. I can't relate to this, whereas lots of people might be able to. So it's sort of things like this I just brush over. I don't get to tend to get too involved in any details anymore. So yeah, John emphasizes that Paul is the dead man in being for the benefit of Mr. Kike. He sings the phrase late of Pablo. That suggests that Paul is dead, since Pablo is Spanish for Paul and late means dead. Of course, Paul isn't really a dead man. He just plays one on Sergeant Pepper. If you shoot a line straight down from Paul's left eye, then you are very close to finding the location of the treasure. All that remains is to make a beeline from the tree through the shot, and then you must dig. The instrument that Paul holds over his chest, a cor angulace, makes a line that runs from Isiban, who plays the role of the palm tree, through the shot and points to the B at the end of the word club. This is a beeline from the tree through the shot. Curiously, the little trophy in the yard, which is the only visible piece of booty, points to the exact location where the other two lines cross. So here we go. Okay. I mean, some of the connections are a little bit more difficult to sort of follow, especially at the start. But it will all sort of come together. It'll all come together right now. Um, so here's the B. He uh, he circles. X marks the spot. Paul's heart. So we talked about that earlier on. And yeah, back to the Chamber Street. Uh, uh, Beneath the WTC Center where the Oculus and the flat Earth intercontinental landmass sizes are detailed for us. It's Chamber Street again. It's all about the heart. Heart with the H to the back is Earth, right? Right. So X marks the spot. Paul's heart is where the treasure is located. This is where you dig. Shall I continue? So Okay. Okay. So these are all just different comments. I'll just go through them because otherwise we'll be ages. Um, okay, sure. I might as well just continue reading. I did this last night, and I decoded that in my own sense anyway. And yeah, I thought I made a good enough job of it. And it's a kind of something we can all relate to as well on this journey. You know, we're often all called fools, and most unjustifiably by people. You know, and when we understand that if they only did a little bit of thinking, a little bit of open-minded research, then the needs must come to the same conclusion, you know. So who's the fool, really? So anyway, I might as well just continue. Now, in the light of the party of the gold bug, consider the lyrics to the Fool on the Hill to be describing a death's head high in a tree on a slope facing the west, and the song will make perfect sense. Well, it makes perfect sense in a different sense as well, Jarface, right? The fool on the hill, day after day, alone in the hill, the man with the foolish grin is keeping perfectly still, but nobody wants to know him. They can see that he's just a fool, and he never gives an answer. But the fool on the hill sees the sun going down, and the eyes in his head see the world spinning round. While on the way, his head on the cloud, the man of 1,000 voices is talking perfectly loud, but nobody ever hears him or the sound he appears to make, and he never seems to notice. But the fool on the hill sees the sun going down, and the eyes in his head see the world spinning round. Oh, round, 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 and nobody seems to like him. They can tell what he wants to do, and he never shows his feelings. But the fool on the hill sees the sun going down, and the eyes in his head see the world spinning round, or round, 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 round. But he never listens to them. He knows that they're the fools, but they don't like him. The fool on the hill sees the sun going round, down, and the eyes in his head see the world spinning round, oh, round, 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 round. Now consider a few of the lyrical snippets that are scattered about Pepper, fixing a hole, getting a fix on the eye socket of the death's head, or a fix on where to dig the hole for the treasure. Take your pick. Well, we also included maybe a greater restoration project in terms of a grander picture. If the Earth went through a destructive process, maybe there's a repair job uh, in operation behind the scenes. So that's another possible interpretation. But yeah, you can definitely see how they're pointing you towards Dallas, or not Dallas Goldbug. Yeah, Edgar Allan Poe's Goldbug, and getting you to make that connection when it can hit you. Drop me a line stating point of view. Indicate precisely yours sincerely, wasting away. Drop me a line from the left eye of the death's head, from which the flesh is surely wasted away. The celebrated Mr. K performs his feat on Saturday at Bishopsgate, a reference to the Bishop's Castle in the Goldbug. A primary feature of every castle is the gate. Much more to come. So, yeah, on tender hooks. Okay, let's move down. So just to get a grasp, when did he start the thread? Oh, the 31st of July, 2009. So this is a couple of days later. Next one down. Again, I'm going to be reading this for a while. Don't get caught up on any particular area, because as we go through it, it will all come together and it will all make a lot more sense. The only reason he quoted that particular passage from Goldbug is because pretty much that's all you need. You know, when you follow these instructions, then as applied to Sergeant Pepper's, then you can seek out your treasure. Okay. When you read Lewis Carroll's Through the Looking Glass, you could easily see that Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds is a parody of Carroll's story. It's more than that, man. Alice takes a boat ride in a river. She encounters giant flowers. She encounters a rocking horse creature and wants to know what it eats. She takes a train ride with a beetle, no less. John even calls the story out by name when he says Looking Glass Ties. You find another reference to Through the Looking Glass and the sound getting better. The lads sing the chorus better, 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 rising into pitch with each better. Here are two relevant snippets from Through the Looking Glass, Chapter 5, Wool and Water. Yeah, we remember the Red Queen. Oh yeah, who made us question the whole idea of time and cause and effect. So she reacted to the prick of a needle before the needle pricked her finger, because time had no relevance to her. Time is a construct. Anyway, it says the Queen said. So this is an extract from Through the Looking Glass. I remember reading it, and the Queen said that would have been better still, better, better, and better and better. Her voice went higher with each better, till it got quite to a squeak at last. Oh, much better, cried the Queen, her voice rising to a squeak as she went on. Much better, 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 better. Her last word ended in a long bleat, so like a sheep that Alice was quite startled. So we have Lewis Carroll on the cover of Sergeant Pepper's. We have at least two songs on Pepper that parody his Looking Glass story. One of those songs calls the story out by name. The action in Carroll's story takes place on a giant chessboard. Yes, again, um, very pertinent indeed. We are ahead of the game in one sense. This guy Jarface claims to have solved Sergeant Pepper's, but he hasn't, and purposefully so as well, because yeah, if you haven't incorporated flat Earth into your thinking and the dodo in terms of flat Earth, then you can't progress. So simple as that. Here we go. The action in Carl's story takes place on a giant chessboard. Alice starts as the White Queen's pawn and moves from square to square until she reaches the eighth square, where she eight again, where she well, chessboard has 8 times 8 squares, right? HH, uh, where she becomes a queen. At the seventh square, she meets a knight who wears a peculiar box. I see you're admiring my little box, the knight said in a friendly tone. That's a very pertinent chapter as well. And remember, the wasp in the wig, the discarded chapter, was said to slot in just after Alice had her memorable encounter with the White Knight. So, in the image below, taken from Sergeant Pepper's inner gatefold photo, you can see that George wears a little box on his uniform. Can you? Oh, here, look. A little difficult to see here, but you can see it right here. On the front cover of Pepper, George has a mane on the back of his head. Okay, so that's making the horse or the White Knight connection. On the back cover, he holds his fingers in an L shape, symbolic of the way the knight or horse moves on the chessboard. John made a pun about this in Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite when he said, Henry the horse dances the waltz. The waltz dance step is L shaped. A horse that dances the waltz is a knight on a chessboard. So they're setting out the pieces and telling you what pieces are in play and where they are in play. Um, so here we can see not Ringo, George with his L. If this is not enough to convince you that George plays the role of a knight on Sergeant Pepper's, consider this. In 1974, George released an album that is remarkably suggestive of Sergeant Pepper, and he called it Dark Horse, right? Dark Horse. And yeah, once again, let me just say I am not familiar with most of the works of the Beatles. Same with any of the individual bands, be it Wings from Paul McCartney or George Harrison. Just not familiar with them, so I'm going to be in the dark for a lot of it. But I'm just not going to worry about that. I'm not going to go in and strenuously do research into everything that's suggested here. That's not the point. It's to take a more general view. Uh, because I do understand as well that ultimately the same story has been told again and again. So we'll get to it. We don't need to delve too deeply into any one aspect, because again, you could spend months on any one aspect. So the game is chess, and to quote John again, you can learn how to play the game. It's easy. All you need is love. Now consider the movements of the major chess pieces: the knight, the queen, the bishop, and the rook. L is the knight, can only waltz, right? So a knight moves in chess two up and one across, or one up and two across, are in that combination. Queen is the O. Queen is able to circle the board. V is the bishop for the diagonals, and the E is the rook for straight lines. Excellent. Yeah, excellent connections. He's given props to my son Brian for making the love chess connection. Chess is an important link in the Sergeant Pepper treasure hunt. Ringo is famous for quipping that he learned how to play chess during the making of Sergeant Pepper. Well, again, these are all clues for you. You know what I mean. We're not to take these things literally. The Ringo, George, Paul, they're all characters within a greater play, and these are all clues. So everything they say is significant. And this is what I talk about the dodo as well. Because of the significance of the dodo and the fact that it didn't exist, then everything written about it is significant, up to and including its date of discovery. If something didn't exist and it represents something, then the date it was chosen to come to life is going to be significant in itself, right? That's my basis anyway for talking about 420 from the date of the dodo, and talking about our history, our fabricated history, if you will, beginning in the year 1598, and before that, different realm, just a different reality, and there's no equating one with the other. So yeah, Ringo's famous for quipping that he learned how to play chess during the making of Sergeant Pepper's. George commissioned a gold and silver-plated chess piece with the pieces that are based on Ringo's hands. John and Yoko appear in the film Imagine with a giant outdoor chess set. Look at the back cover of Sergeant Pepper. George is the most obvious with the L-shaped fingers, but look at John, whose hands make a V sign. John is the bishop. He has his hands in his pants as a pun, because that is where his bishop lives. Ringo's hands are clasped so that his fingers make straight lines. He wears a flat-topped hat on the front cover. Ringo is the rook or castle. Yeah, it's all laid out right. So we can see here, L shape. Hands on the bishop. And what was Ringo? Okay, Ringo wears a flat top and on the front cover, so he's the rook of the castle. And the queen is, I guess, Paul, but let's get to that. Okay, Paul is back to us with no hand signs visible. He is turned around. There's a pun. This is a pun on the letter O because O is a round letter. To emphasize the point, Paul has round bottoms on his back. Paul is the queen, but only when he's turned around. More on this in another post. Why is chess so important? Let's go back to the gold bug. Actually, that's very. I was just saying this design and the pattern of the back here, very reminiscent of Flat Earth Man and his song NASA Lies to Us or whatever. Remember I talked about he had the Gleason's map, and he was lying upside down with his head to a Marshall amplifier, and there was a guitar next to him. This pattern is very reminiscent of that pattern that was in the guitar. But anyway, that's just by the way. Why is chess so important? Right, a good glass in the bishop's castle. This is the quote. Though the looking glass is about chess, and the key to finding the treasure in Pope's gold bug is to use a looking glass in the bishop's castle, 2 chess pieces, and a looking glass. A perfect fit. There is your dovetail joint. This is where the 2 stories come together. They share the common elements of chess and looking glasses, and both stories featured a beetle. You use the looking glass in the bishop's castle to locate or get a fix on the hole in the pirate's skull. When you consider that pirates ply their trade on the ocean, then you can make perfect sense of the lyrics in Glass Onion that says, fixing a hole in the ocean, locating the ocean pirate's left eye, try to make a dovetail joint, a seamless connection between Goldbug and Alice, and looking through a glass. So now you can see it's all connected. So Edgar Allan Poe is again pointing you to and connecting you to Alice in Wonderland, the works of Lewis Carroll. And again, these people, I don't take that they're real men. They're just, if they were anything, they were front men. But I don't even see a need to have an existence based on them. It's all storytelling. Yeah, so all all driving you to Alice in Wonderland and the utmost connection. And remember, at in the front of our brain all the time, we have flat Earth. So we can look if we have flat Earth, the dodo, but most especially flat Earth. If we think of these terms just with flat Earth, we can make a connotation, right? Looking through a glass, right? The glass barrier. I talk about a reflective barrier above. Absolutely sure it's a reflective barrier, and all we have is the sun and its reflected artifacts, fixing a hole in the ocean. Well, again, if there was a destruction, an inundation, let the water in. We want to try and get things back to initial conditions. Uh, Trying to make a dovetail joint, okay? I don't have anything to say on that one at the minute, outside of the bird reference, just make connection with the dodo. Anyway, let's move on. So back to the front cover, and he goes over, if you're confused, don't worry about that. He goes over everything, and everything becomes much clearer. Don't force yourself. So back to the front cover, we see John and Ringo together as Bishop and Rook. Ringo the Rook is John's drummer, so Ringo is literally the Bishop's drummer, or the Bishop's castle. And we have already seen that when we use a looking glass on Ringo's drum, we were able to get a fix on the Death's head with the "he die" message. Right? There we go. Once you begin to see all of the pieces moving together, then a flood of post-Pepper lyrics suddenly makes sense. Consider the song "I Am the Walrus," wherein we meet two characters from Through the Looking Glass, the Walrus and the Eggman. And the Walrus and the Carpenter, actually, in the the Walrus and the Carpenter. And that just came to mind every time I think Carpenter. Now I think of the two, Ronnie and Jason, who described themselves as two carpenters. And I had already equated Ronnie and Jason to Tweedledum and Tweedledee within the story of Alice in Wonderland. And it's Tweedledum and Tweedledee who tell the story of the Walrus and the Carpenter. So isn't that interesting? Anyway, the Walrus and the Eggman is here. Okay. John calls out Lucy in the Sky Diamond. Sorry, John calls out Lucy in the Sky by name in Walrus, and of course Lucy is a parody of Through the Looking Glass. Who else does John call out by name? Call out by name in I Am the Walrus? Edgar Allan Poe, right? He says elementary penguins singing Hare Krishna. Man, you should have seen them kicking Edgar Allan Poe. Why did I? So that's a line from I Am the Walrus. Why did I include the line about the elementary penguin? Because when I hear elementary penguin in a song about a walrus, I cannot help but think of a very popular cartoon from the early 60s called Tennessee Tuxedo that starred a walrus and a penguin. Once again, I think the same story has been told in many different forms throughout the years, throughout the generations almost. We all know about the flat Earth penguin who's taken prominency recently, right? But yeah, we need not dwell on aspects like this because anyway, the walrus and the penguin lived in a zoo with the zookeeper Stanley Livingstone. And I know no Nukes has been doing his own research into Stanley Livingstone and suggesting the connection between Livingstone and Leviathan. And that's a very interesting connection, which I haven't investigated further, but I have it in mind. And I mean, did these characters even exist? David Livingstone, or Stanley Livingstone? Is it? No, David Livingstone, right? Yeah. are they just there again representative of something quite different indeed? Yeah, it was David Livingstone, okay. Whose name is a play on journalist H.M. Stanley and Dr. David Livingstone. Stanley is famous for having made the popular question, Dr. Livingstone, I presume. Dr. David Livingstone appears on the cover of Sergeant Pepper. This world-famous explorer and discoverer is intently gazing upwards at something that the rest of the crowd have not noticed. Follow his eyes. What has he discovered? So here we have Livingstone looking up at Poe. Well, there's your connection with the Livingstone, Einstein. One stone, monolith. Lith translates as stone. Mono is one stone. Hitler, born in 420, 20th of April, was said to have one ball, one testicle, or one stone. So yeah. So here we have Livingstone looking up at Edgar Allan Poe. So Poe is a pivotal figure in all of this. There's the flat cap Ringo is wearing, which makes him the rook. He has found Edgar Allan Poe. Excellent. See, there's all these types of comments. I recommend anyone who's interested in all of these. Yeah, he brings up different lyrics to different songs, and all of these things add to the intricacy, and you know, they just show you that all your favorite bands are hinting, are pointing, are subtly giving you clues and indications towards the same thing. Okay, I'm going to read this because this I am I remember is another some excellent contributors in here. So for the Queen to use, he's just reading a little extract from Alice through the looking glass. For some minutes, Alice stood without speaking, looking out in all directions over the country, and a most curious country it was. There were a number of tiny little brooks running straight across it from side to side, and the ground between was divided up into squares by a number of little green hedges that reached from brook to brook. She glanced rather shyly at the real Queen as she said this, but her companion only smiled pleasantly and said, "That's easily managed. You can be the White Queen, Paul, if you like, as Lily is too young to play, and you're in the second square to begin with. When you get to the 8th square, you'll be a queen. Lily is the Queen's daughter." This is just it's so this is reference back to the first chapter. "It is the voice of my child," the White Queen cried as she rushed past the king so violently that she knocked him over among the cinders. And of course, that Alice finds the king and queen in the hearth of the fire, Hearth. How appropriate. And I also connect that to, in a literal sense, I've come to understand that the earth was destroyed, the giant trees were destroyed, and I think fire overtook the earth. So, yeah, the inundation maybe was necessary to save the whole and to put out the fire. That's just my idea. That's certainly hinted at in Alice in Wonderland, and also hinted at um, in many different places. What the fuck is that name again of that game? I don't think of it now. It's the Alice in Wonderland sort of adult game version, but fire certainly played a massive role in that. So violently she slapped him into scissors. "My precious Lily, my imperial kitten," as she began scrambling wildly up the sides of the fender. So here we go. Plasticine porters with looking glass ties. The pieces. Alice, the Queen, Lily. "Kitty, can you play chess now? Don't smile, my dear. I'm asking it seriously because when you were playing just now, you watched just as if you understood it. And when I said check, you purred. Well, it was a nice check, Kitty, and really, I might have won if it hadn't been for that nasty knight that came wriggling down among my pieces." See, yeah, this guy is recognizing the different connections uh, between Alice in Wonderland and some lines from the Beatles song. So maybe I'll just stick to Jar Face for the minute. which will make us see, because there's lots of good comments like this, right? Again, Lily Allen, and you can be sure, yeah, Lily Allen. This guy is probably just pointing out how Lily Allen and her whole spiel ties in with the Lily mentioned in Alice in Wonderland. So again, this, yeah, I could go through all of this, but it'll just take up a lot of time, and I won't do that. I'll just go to the main man himself. Yeah, and one thing, some of the photographs, like here, some of these photographs have been removed, or just haven't made it to this point. Remember, it is that's nearly 10 years, man. That's an 8-year-old thread now, but it's more pertinent now than ever, definitely. Anyway, so let's move on. Now it is time for me to show you the treasure. Going back to Poe's Goldbug, shoot from the left eye of the death's head, a beeline from the tree through the shot. In the story, a golden beetle is dropped from the dead pirate's eye. Consider the fact that gold is yellow matter and sailors are called dogs. And now you can make perfect sense of the lyric from I Am the Walrus that says, yellow matter dripping from a dead dog's eye. If you have not figured it out already, I Am the Walrus is all about Sergeant Pepper. Several lines from the song refer to people who appear on the cover. Pornographic priestess who let her knickers down is none other than Marilyn Monroe. Monroe. Marilyn Monroe, yeah. We know all about that. Another transgender, it certainly appears. Who was the first ever Playboy centerfold? Okay. Mr. City Policeman is Sir Robert Peel, who is known as the father of city policing, and who founded Scotland Yard. He is sitting pretty, little policeman in row 2. But I digress. The picture below shows the shot from the left eye of the death's head, played by Paul in yellow. It shows the beeline going through the shot directly over Paul's heart, right? Okay, so the shot from yellow from the eye. Remember, they mirrored the Lonely Hearts, and that's where it goes, and that's where it ends up. Okay, and okay, here's the beeline. Yeah. Okay. We further see that the only visible piece of treasure on the cover, i.e. the trophy, points directly to the same spot over Paul's heart. Clearly, we have found the location of the treasure. So yeah, Paul's heart. The heart of the dodo. So remember, if Paul is the dodo, and the dodo represents the flat Earth map, and underneath the dodo's wing is the North Center, then Paul's heart is the North Center. And yeah, X marks the spot. That's what we've come to find out subsequently. But obviously, at this point, we don't know what the treasure is. So here we go. Finding the location of the treasure is not enough. In Poe's story, the hero, William Legrand, had to dig for his treasure. We must dig for our treasure too. It is obvious that we cannot physically dig. So in the spirit of parody, we must search for another meaning for the word dig. And we do not have to look far to find that meaning. When we follow the line from the trophy through Paul's heart, we discover that it points to William S. Burroughs. His name sounds like Burroughs, which of course means to dig a hole. In the story, our hero William Legrand burrows for his treasure. That just reminds me of Edinburgh. And I already talked about the idea put forward that Edinburgh is a real Jerusalem. We have Arthur's Seat in Edinburgh, looking out towards the north. Towards the North Center. And yeah, Edinburgh. So William Burroughs, wicked, clever Beatles, right? So you don't even need to know any of these characters really, although it would be helpful, and you can just imagine the amount of work this guy's put into it. And again, you mightn't be following all of the connections intimately and completely, but don't worry about that. It'll all be reiterated and gone over again and cemented for you. The above example seems to indicate that we dig by finding pairs of related objects that lie on opposite sides of Paul's heart. Here are two related objects that stand out. A stone bust has a prominent bulge that marks the location of its third eye, and Carl Jung has a prominent shadow on his forehead, made by the bridge of his upraised glasses, that marks the location of his third eye. This Carl Jung here. And did he say that was Oscar Wilde? When we draw a line from Jung's third eye to the stone bust's third eye, we see that the line passes directly through Paul's heart. There we go. So home is where the heart is. And isn't it funny again, my heart and lute, you know, and Chamber Street. I can't get over that one with the Oculus, the chambers of my heart. Um, anyway, in the next image, we draw a line from the sideways tuba mouthpiece to the mouth that is turned in the proper direction to play out. And we see that this line passes through Paul's heart. So is the tuba mouthpiece, is the mouth that's turned to the side. And once again, yeah, right through the heart. Now remember, this is supposed to be this is a thread, and the guy is presenting these findings. So don't be too critical. and I was just looking, the thread is actually ongoing. I think it's ongoing. And if it isn't ongoing to this day, it was certainly ongoing to a couple of years ago. So this line connects the hookah bowl to the bole, B-O-L-E, of the palm tree, bowl to bowl, passing through Paul's heart. So here we have the hookah bowl. I wouldn't have fucking known a bowl. Well, I would know it, B-O-L-E. I never heard of it. But here we go, yeah. All connects. So everything is significant. Absolutely everything is placed and has a meaning and a connection. And you'll see that more and more as the investigation goes on. And this is what I keep saying about the dodo as well. Everything written about it is significant in terms of it representing something and associated with a greater story of what the dodo actually represents. Now, if you look closely at the cloth Shirley Temple doll, you can see that she has a little toy car on her thigh. You can also see a driving glove next to her that looks like it has blood stains. This is a wild car. So here you see the white car and a bloody glove. If we draw a line from the bloody driving glove through the wild car and on through Paul's heart, it points to Oscar Wilde, whose name makes the pun car wild. Oscar Wilde. I mean, how would you make that connection? You know what I mean? Oscar to a wild car. Um, but he's done it. So Shirley Temple has the distinction of being the only person who appears 3 times in Sergeant Pepper's. She's somewhat difficult to see where she peeks out over Wax John's shoulder. So I provided a zoom. So here she is, tucked in. Shirley Temple, that will become relevant later on. It's all in the names. If we draw a line that connects the tops of the 3 Shirley Temples, we see this line passes through Paul's heart. So here we go. 2, 3. There's an older Shirley Temple. There's a hidden one here. And here's the original. This is just the beginning of the treasure. The best part is yet to come. Okay. Yeah, and all of these are very valuable, but I can't afford to go through them now. So let me move on to page 2. So much involved. So here we go. A couple of days later, something stands out in the treasure that we have discovered so far. Of what treasure, or what in the hell is he talking about? Then you need to go back to the beginning of this thread. In the image below, I've highlighted the line running down Paul's Cor Angles and the Shirley Temple line in bold red. As you can see, they're perpendicular to one another. They make square corners when they cross. Okay. Okay, so we just extended the Cor Angles both directions and the Shirley Temples, and they make a perfect cross here. In the next image, we see the middle Shirley Temple with a little pointy hatted gnome at her feet. The gnome's face has been airbrushed with what appears to be a fleur-de-lis. Okay, as you can see, this little direction marker points in a line that is parallel to the Cor Angles that Paul holds over his heart. The insignia on George's sleeve points in the same direction. The direction is 12 degrees clockwise from the vertical. If we draw lines at the same angle to the third eyes of the stone bust and of Carl Jung, we notice that these lines are the same distance from Paul's Cor Angles. So I think you can sort of see where we're going with all the talk of chess, right? Um, If we draw lines that are parallel to the Shirley Temple line and pass those through the aforementioned third eyes, we end up with a rectangle that is rotated 12 degrees clockwise, and Paul's heart is at the center. Again, the third eye has been very prominent and pivotal in formulating this grid. The next image shows how the drum defines the sizes of the rectangle, or the size of the rectangle. So yeah, here we go. The drum circles describe a hexagon, as shown in the image below. You have 7 circles and 1 ring to bind them. Okay. In Ringo's most recent video, for Liverpool 8, okay, here we have the 8 again. There are at least 8 scenes where somebody looks into a kaleidoscope. Each time this happens, we see a hexagon that slowly rotates clockwise until it reaches 12 degrees. As soon as the hexagon reaches 12 degrees, the scene abruptly changes. I have captured 2 stills from the video below and drawn a line on them that is rotated 12 degrees clockwise for reference. So what we come to find is all of the Beatles, individual Beatles later works are all pointing you back to Sgt. Pepper's and giving you some sort of clues in terms of the tools you need to go about recognizing the real puzzle, the true puzzle, and then going about solving it. So this is just what Jarface is mentioning here. Ringo and the lads have been making fun of Sgt. Pepper's ever since 1967, and they continue to do so to this very day. They're not making fun of it, man. They're pointing you to the significance of it. But if again you are not a flat earther, none of it makes sense. None of it. You can make progress in terms of decoding all of these clues that are laid out for you. But if you're not a flat earther, you won't have any grander context to put it into. And yeah, it becomes pointless, really. So it's not, they're not making fun of anything. They're keeping it relevant. And I have drawn axes on them that are rotated 12 degrees clockwise for reference. first in Ringo Rama, where Ringo wears a Sergeant Pepper jacket. His head is tilted 12 degrees clockwise. Looks like a right dodo there, Ringo. Dodo Ringo. The dodo ate my Ringo. Next we have Ringo, which is remarkably suggestive of Sergeant Pepper's. There is a looking glass image at the bottom. Ringo's reflection, the most prominent, which is the most prominent black object on this cover, just like Paul's Corancles in the back. In the black object on Sergeant Pepper's is rotated 12 degrees clockwise. Okay, we have the Looking Glass reference. Again, I never heard of any of these albums. On Ringo the Fourth, our beloved drummer is holding the sword precisely at 12 degrees clockwise. There are flowers on the bottom, just like on Sergeant Pepper's. Now you have the S word. You wield the S word, Ringo, do you? Okay. I talked about the roads before, representing, for me anyway, the giant whirlpool located at the north center where all the tides come from and go to. Or Arthur's seat, Arthur in the north center, Arthur and the sword from the stone. Okay. But he's just pointing out the 12 degrees here, and yeah, it clearly is prominent, and it clearly is a reference back to, well, it becomes ever clearer, a reference back to uh, Sergeant Pepper's itself. Here is rotogravure. Ringo's head is aligned precisely on the same axis as Paul's Coranglace on Pepper. He's using a looking glass. Yes, he is. Look for the clues, right, Ringo? So again, 12 degrees. Oh, this is a strange word, right? Isn't it? Rotogravure. I've never heard of it. Rotogravure. Rotogravure. Okay. Anyway, back to Sergeant Pepper's. If we draw a five-pointed star over Paul's heart, we see that each of the 5 lines points to something significant. Starting at the top, we have Fred Astaire, which is a pun on a star. Yes, Fred Astaire, a star. A star turns out to be the solution to the Queen's puzzle at the end of chapter 8, and a looking glass. And yeah, very prominent, very prominent. Where did it say? Oh yeah, my earthen star, my heart and lute. A lute is Luteetul, is etal, which is the star, and well, ultimately it is about our earth and star, our earth and sun, right? So this is the biggest. This is the ultimate picture. This is the real reference. We want to find out about the nature of our home, and then the nature of ourselves. So it's a twofold exploration. Okay, going clockwise from where we see that the rightmost arm of the star points to the precise corner of the hexagon, and the rightmost leg of the star points to the precise corner of the album cover. The leftmost leg points to the leftmost arm of the little flower uh, star in the dirt. The leftmost arm points to Marlon Brando, who is pictured in his role from The Wild One, where he plays the leader of a motorcycle gang called the Beatles. This is a funny joke because a Brando Beatle is a pun on our beloved Ringo Beatle. What is even funnier is that the pun is played with a star. Ringo Star. I forgot about Ringo Star. Ring O Star. Ring of Star. Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? Interesting. I also mentioned, remember I mentioned Antonio Subirats. His name backwards, his surname backwards is Star, I-B, us. Pretty interesting, right? Okay, let's continue. So these are all the different connections. You can see the symmetrical pattern that's forming, and all of these connections will be ticked off one by one. And it's not just one connection. Anyone is free to come along and say at any time, well, that's a very vague or very flimsy connection there. I would go with that one. But no, I mean every clue is backed up by another clue. So there'll always be more than one connection. The way you know you're on the right track. Okay. So anyway, once you begin digging for treasure, you come to realize that everything in Sergeant Pepper's is connected to everything else by a geometric and wordplay framework that is nothing short of genius. The Beatles were and continue to be brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Well, that's the hidden hand, man. It's not the Beatles. It's not the Beatles. They're just players in the game. Paul's album title, Ecce Cor Meum, is Latin for Behold My Heart. His coat of arms bears the same motto, Ecce Cor Meum, Behold My Heart, Behold My Earth, possibly, right? B. Well, I can definitely find behemoth, right? Behemoth. Actually, what happens when I what letters when I take behemoth out? Behe. Hang on now. Heth. I'm gonna have to write that down now because that'll annoy me otherwise. Behold my heart. Okay. BE. HE. M. O. T. H. And you're left with LDYAR. So I'm just wondering, just if something pops out. LDYAR. No, no. LD. Oh, sorry. This is a dairy. Darrell. Darrell. Behemoth Darrell. Yard L. Yardle. Okay, no. Okay. Forget about that. But no, interesting. Behold my heart has behemoth in it, right? You can't deny that. Uh, uh, so that's his echo. So that's Paul McCartney's his coat of arms, and has the motto "Ecce Cor Meum," behold my heart. Pointed you to his heart, right? This is where it all goes true. And again, if Paul is the dodo, the heart of the dodo is the North Center. So there are many jokes, puns, and connections surrounding Sergeant Pepper's Horatio. There are many jokes, puns, and connections surrounding Sergeant Pepper's Horatio that are dreamt of in your philosophy. That's a play on a quote from Hamlet. Okay. Appreciate it at the time, unbelievable work, and it really is. Like I must be 5 or 6 years ago now, but it's fascinating. Fascinating. I've forgotten most of it. I didn't understand most of it. I still don't understand most of it, but I understand that there is a coherency within all of it. And yeah, just because we've connected with the greater picture, this is why I'm going through it again. So here we go. I can imagine there's very few listening as well, but what can you do with that? I put a falling star into my pocket thinking it might rain. That fucker burned my thigh and set my pants on fire with nothing gained. So ba, Mary, can you spare me any wool? I think I've seen too much already. The pie is open and the blackbirds run the school. I made an offer on a pumpkin and a shoe. With all the jack beans I had traded, the shell was rotten and the soul had lost its glue. Knick knack, turn your back, get a doggy bone. I've been such a sucker, gold trust, paid in rust, every name I know rhymes with Mother Tucker. The goose is on the table, the goose is on the table, the goose is on the table. I don't know what that is. That's obviously or not obviously, but maybe lyric from one of the Beatles songs that I certainly don't recognize. I'm sure he'll let us know. Okay, these are just small comments. I won't go through them. He says, boy, this is how the symbol game works, people. It's all around you, everywhere. Pay attention now. I'm teaching you how to read. Singing the dark chorus. So he does link to, I'm afraid I won't be able to play. I'm a cool jerk looking for the source. All right, here we go. Surprised to hear from you. Me, I'm doing quite well despite the obvious. The storyline, and all truth, about 65% on things that actually happen. Fantasy now to figure what is and what isn't. It was agreed by all involved that once the story is told, not previous statements, and I know, and what those clues allude to has not yet been figured out, but George or Ringo, there was always a total rubbish response. That is the storyline. Deny. I've been accused of jerking you all off with my cryptic responses. Truth is, you've been jerked off from day one. That was the part. That was part of the storyline. A little mystery for you to figure out. Apollo. Pardon me, right? MMT is Pepper in a more visual form. Some. The cover design relates to Pepper and many visual clues. The concept was to take a journey, visual points of interest discerned, magicians noting the movements, clues abound. They all point to Pepper. Nobody read it. Writer Apollo. Tittle tattle, I sing slowly. You should know by now that I can read your puzzles. Turnabout is fair play or something like that. What if you wrote a book and nobody read it? I want to be a paperback writer. Can you read as well as you write? Answers can be found in the littlest places. Choose carefully. Clues, I'm guessing he's picking up on from works he's been delving into. So again, we can skip over a lot of this. We don't have to understand it. Take the dough away to somebody who can play the part. And when the morning sun comes creeping in, we get up and worthy adversary for you. It would be a shame if we never met. Precious. J. P.S. I can't catch your name. I didn't catch your name. Okay. Lots of commentaries on them. I'm gonna read his contributions anyway. I danced much as I spilled them with the greatest care. I tumbled, twisted, turned around. I woke up shattered on the ground. I blackened everything I knew. I made me into one of you. I came to crack your pretty jar and drive you in my car. We're friendly friends on golden roads are people you already know, so disregard what Jimmy said. The wind is blowing in my head, and since I'm prone to change my mind, the wind may yet blow one more time. Sincerely signed, the boob whose middle name means hill. Okay, no idea what that's about. This is Aubrey. This is an illustration by Aubrey Erections. Taking a really close look at Pepper lately. Okay, he's gonna actions, right? Dick jokes have to come into things. Again, don't be worrying about losing any sort of on what the fuck is going on. I'll just keep reading, and it will make itself much more coherent. So sorry for preceding symbolic sideshow, folks. There are multiple backdoor games afoot on PM, and I feel the need to answer them publicly in my own special way. And now back to our regular programming, the Pepper Enigma. Below is the High Priestess Tarot card. The two pillars represent the pillars that lie on either side of the entrance to Solomon's temple in the Old Testament. It's your head, people. Your head, your mouth is the door. Two pillars are up the side, and you have the dome at the top, the marble arch. Again, through frequency and vibration, we can get activated. The black pillar on the left is called Boaz. It represents the male energy, war, severity, the sun. The white pillar on the right is called Jachin. It represents the female energy, love, compassion, the moon. Yeah, well, in my times we talked about that, the divided state we're in, and it's all about reunification. I even sang Yesterday by Paul McCartney yesterday, and yeah, it's all about this reunification. And if you remember the UN map with the 33 segments, when you rotate one olive branch from the other, olive branch is I love, right? And when you rotate them around, the way you get the upside down arrows sort of overlapping to get the perfect unison of male and female, and you imagine the map swinging around with you, well, then you have the dodo popping out. So yeah, that's where the male and female aspects helped us to sort of decode the UN map in that sense, anyway. On Sergeant Pepper, Sonny Liston plays the role of Boaz. There are Boaz near him to make the point. The stuffed boa at his feet and the feathered boa worn by Mae West. Boaz. So Diana Dors plays the role of Jackin. You can see that Sonny and Diana are polar opposites in every aspect. Male, female, black, white, fight her lover. He has short hair, she has long hair. He wears white with gold trim. She wears gold with white trim. The presence of Boaz and Jackin means that when we look at Sgt. Pepper's, we are looking at the entrance to Solomon's temple. To validate this, we have the rebus made by Shirley Temple and Diana Dors, temple doors. This means that we are facing west, and we see Mae West and Horace Westerman on the cover to show us that we are facing west. Since we are facing west, the left side of the cover should be the southern side, and to our pleasure, there is Terry Southern on the left side of the crowd to show us that we have our directions correct. Remember that each of the Beatles represents a letter based on the movements of their respective chess pieces. John is a bishop, V. Ringo is a rook, E. George is a knight, L. This leaves Paul, who is an O in the back of Sgt. Pepper because he has turned around. But under Pepper, Paul portrays the I, so Paul is an I. This means that John, Ringo, Paul, and George together spell veil, V-E-I-L. They portray the veil of Solomon's temple. Now, consider the star or pentacle that is over Paul's head as part of the gold-bug treasure. Pentacles are the tarot symbol of wealth, but they are also the symbol of Venus, the morning star. When Venus comes up over the horizon, it means that the sun is about to rise. We see from the gold-bug treasure over Paul's heart that Venus has risen. Since the crowd in the temple is facing east, it means that they are sitting in an English garden waiting for the sunrise. Good morning, here comes the sun. Here comes the Sun King. When the Beatles were in the studio recording, Sgt. Pepper, a new unknown band, was in the studio next door recording their debut album, The Piper at the Gates of Dawn. The Pink Floyd have had a lot to say about Pepper over the years. Well, all pointing us in the same direction. Just look how big Pink Floyd are. I mean, and I just mentioned Pink Floyd, right, didn't I, earlier on, in relation to The Wizard of Oz. The pillars, Boaz and Jachin, are sometimes symbolized by a lion and a unicorn. Really? I didn't. Well, excellent. Because the lion and the unicorn are always fighting for predominancy in chapter 7 of Alice in Wonderland. I think it was Isa suggested the lion is the left brain, unicorn is the right brain. And indeed, when we look for the collective noun or the collective terms for lions, we know it's a pride. Well, what's a collective term for unicorns? I'll let you look that up, right? I've said it before anyway, but I'll let you look it up. What's a collective term for unicorn? So here, yeah, and it's all about the unification, right? It's a reunification of these divided aspects of us, and it's via this harmonious reunification that we can be he, I suppose. Lions are warriors, while the word unicorn means one heart. That's interesting. You could also have unicorn, right? Or unique horn. Uh, Looking Glass has a chapter called The Lion and the Unicorn. These two are always fighting over the crown. Um, Crown is crow, and crown. I was thinking about counting crows and how does the N and the S equate possibly? Well, think about a capital N. That's a Z on its side, and a S, same sound. So a Z and an S are equivalent. So in that sense, they're crows and crown are the same thing. This is another way of saying that opposing energies compete endlessly for control of your mind. Your brain has two hemispheres. They are Mars and Venus, lion and unicorn, war and peace, day and night, sun and moon, male and female. And remember, interesting, sun and moon, aspects of the same thing. You know, it's all about the sun. The moon is a reflection of the sun. Male and female, well, one is a reflection of the other. Venus and Mercury, Venus and Mars. Of course, we look at these in different sense. Retribution and forgiveness, Boaz and Jachin. Here we see the lion and unicorn portrayed on the British Royal Coat of Arms. Note that the unicorn is chained while the lion is loose. More on that in a minute. Yeah, very significant. Sonny Liston was chosen to play the role of Boaz because he is black. He is a fighter, and his name says son and lion. Liston. Sonny Liston. Grown women portrayed on Pepper The grown women portrayed on Pepper are important. Three Marys, Diana, and Madonna and Child. These all represented the divine feminine. The rest of the women are either cartoons or wax hairdressers, dummies, i.e., Stepford wives. We can see that the men run the temple. The Reab, the Masons, the Lions. There is an imbalance of men to women portrayed on Pepper. This is to show us that the balance between the male and female energies is out of whack. This is what the symbol of the chain on the unicorn means. Everybody knows that we live in a man's world, right? I used to be mean to my woman. I beat her and kept her apart from the things that she loved. Man, I was mean, but I'm changing my scene. In the role of Jachin, Diana Dors portrays the moon at night. Paul's left eye, which symbolizes the left eye of the death's head in the Goldbug story, is on the moon side, north side, the dark side of the temple. I'll see you on the dark side of the moon. Northern songs. Paul's left eye is his sea moon. Sea moon was she, the female side of the temple. The letter J is a fairly recent invention. It was added to the English language in 1611. Would you believe? How timely, right? Jachin, like many J words, used to be spelled with an I. Jachin, Iakin, Iakimo, Iakimoon, the moon side of the temple. And yeah, when I with the alphabet doubled up each word, so each like a D and a P are equivalent. They're just inverted and mirrored. Yeah, an I and a J are equivalent as well. So remember how unicorn means one heart, lone heart, lonely heart. We are really dealing with Sergeant Pepper's Unicorn Club band. Lots of bands are in the Unicorn Club. I already touched on Pink Floyd. Unicorn Club wants to unchain the unicorn. They want to bring the balance back. And I think this is what it's all about, really, isn't it? And as within, so without. And everything has to begin within. So now, keeping in mind all the key points we have discussed thus far, i.e. the gold bug, a rich treasure in the ground, the chess connection, the battle between the lion and unicorn, the dominance, of the male energy, let's read the words to a couple of songs by another member of the Unicorn Club, Led Zeppelin, from their Four Sticks album. First, The Battle of Evermore. Eastern glow, sitting in an English garden, the apples of the valley hold the seeds of happiness. The ground is rich, Poe's Goldberg treasure is in the ground. Dance in the dark of night, sing to the morning light. They're all waiting for the sun. The apples turn to brown and black, nobody got it, and then the Beatles broke up. War is the common cry, chess ties looking glass and Goldbug together. Oh well, the night is long, still nobody has got the joke. Tired eyes on the sunrise. Will anybody ever get it? Uh, Waiting for the eastern glow. The pain of war cannot exceed. First, you have to notice the chest stuff on pepper, which is hard. The woe of aftermath. After that, you have to do math to compute the geometry, which is even harder. The drums will shake the castle wall. Ringo, the drummer, is the rook or castle. So he's just going through a particular song, and in brackets here, he's pointing out how you need to make your way through the puzzle in Peppers, and this is what it's referring to. Uh, Shoot straighter than before, shoot for the death's head eye. In the Goldbug story, they got it wrong the first time and had to shoot again. No comfort has the fire at night. In the story, they worked at night, so they had fire. That night's the face so cold, but the fire gave no warmth to the face of the cold dead pirate in the tree. The magic runes are written, isn't it? Well, isn't it interesting? So it's all in the tree. It's all taking place within the tree. The treasure is to be found within the tree. Okay. Again, I haven't read the story. Magic runes are written gold, the hidden geometry treasure, and the gold bug parody. To bring the balance back, bring it back, restore the balance between the male and the female. Now, stairway to heaven. In a tree by the brook, Ringo is the rook, Paul is in the tree, and the looking glass, the chessboard is marked, and in the looking glass, the chessboard is marked out by brooks and hedges. There's a songbird who sings, Paul, blackbird singing at the dead of night, that pirate. So again, he's just pointing out all the different clues and all the different songs that are pointing you to the same thing. Sometimes all of our thoughts are misgiven. Paul is dead, not. So Paul isn't dead. That's not the point. There's a feeling I get when I look to the west. In my thoughts, I've seen rings of smoke through the trees. Skulls are smoke-colored, eye sockets are rings in a tree. And the voices of those who stand looking, who in the story are about to discover the treasure. And it's whispered that soon, if we all call a tune, all the bands that are in the club need to sing about this pepper shit. Then the piper will lead us to reason. Piper, pepper, bring back the balance. And a new day will dawn for those who stand long. The sun will finally rise on pepper, and the forest will echo with laughter. In the story, when they finally found the Goldbug treasure, the forest suddenly echoed with laughter. If there's a bustle in your hedgerow, don't be alarmed now. In Looking Glass, the chessboard is marked out by brooks and hedges. It's just a spring clean for the May Queen. That's chess. And Terry May, Theresa May Queen. Yes, there are two paths you can go by. Paul is dead, or the real pepper meaning. Dear lady, can you hear the wind blow? Coral glaze, held by Paul, is a woodwind. The rest are brass. Your stairway lies on the whispering wind. The woodwind is not played, its meaning on peppers whispered. And as we wind on down the road, the long and winding road, our shadows taller than our soul. The shadow of Paul is dead, gets all our attention. The soul meaning of pepper gets none. And if you listen very hard, the truth will come to you at last. Somebody will figure it out eventually. And when all are one, and one is all, everything on peppers is part of the story. So a lot of other things. So yeah, sorry if that's, because it seemed a bit disjointed. He was going through the lyrics of Stairway to Heaven and just commenting on how every line was in reference to Sergeant Pepper's and the greater connection with the Goldbug story in Alice Wonderland. And yeah, Jarface thinks he's figured it out. You haven't figured it out, man. Not if you haven't taken flat Earth into consideration. And again, that's exactly what I talked about, isn't it? There's a story, there's an external story, which is telling us about the shape and nature of our home and maybe what happened in the past and what we're in for in the future. There's also an internal story, and yeah, that's what we're dealing with here, is a sort of reunification of the male and female aspects. And yeah, HVU8, right? How far would you go to be BH? How far would you go? Okay, right, and I agree. So Jarvis says the more you look into this stuff, the more you see it's everywhere you look. Here's an interesting note about strawberry fields. So he's just referring to a comment. Since you brought it up, Robert Fraser, his last name is French. His last name is French for strawberry. Fraser is credited with persuading the Beatles to put real art on the cover of Pepper. Fruit for Toad. So yeah, Strawberry Fields Forever, and excellent French, English interchangeability, like My Heart in Loot. We told backwards, perfect for Star. Fred Astaire. Fred Astaire, yeah. Anyway, Jarface back again. 3 weeks after he started the thread, so we're only on to page 3. Maybe I'll just make it to the end here and then quit for the night, because this is just what it's going to be about, right? It's I don't expect anyone to be listening, but uh, you should be doing your own reading, I should think, anyway. Forget if I'm not doing too great a job at putting this across, but remember, we're at the very early stages. Once we get up to page 20, whatever, page 15, even page 10, he has most of the stuff finished at page 10. Yeah, everything should be a lot clearer. Okay. Uh, Indeed, sunrise. Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun king. Happiness, happiness is a warm gun. Mother Superior, jump the gun. Come together over me. The sun is eclipsed by the moon. Peter the Rock denied love 3 times before the cock finally crowed. Daniel was hot. He first drew and shot, and Rocky collapsed. But back to the cover of Pepper. The water pipe is next to the lucky fucky sucky doll. Notice the phallic headed way the hose is wrapped. Notice the phallic headgear on the lucky fucky sucky doll. And fucky sucky has his mind set on Snow White. Okay, there you go. Okay, I'll just read out this comment. With all of this in mind, Jarv, I'm wondering how you feel about the possibility that Paul McCartney died or was replaced permanently or even temporarily. Or is your proposed storyline the only explanation for the clues and general high weirdness? Paul himself refers to PID as filling one's head with glue. He has used the line in more than one song. Listen to Don't Be Careless, Love. Try to grok. What does grok mean? Try to grok how Paul, grasp maybe how Paul feels about Paul is dead. What people have done with the beautiful message contained in Sergeant Pepper's. Yeah. Okay. So everyone is missing, again, like everything else, everyone is missing a beautiful story being told, possibly. Maybe same with 9/11, right? Everyone's missing a beautiful story being told for the literal. They're taking the literal seriously when the literal is planted and designed and written and scripted in the first place to distract you, but always to help you along towards the grander puzzle if you have eyes to see. Okay. So Jarface says, I've taken you far on the journey. There's more. Somebody would like for me to leave the last 100 miles or so for others to discover. So I have a question. Does anyone feel deprived for having these things told to you straight up instead of discovering them for yourselves? What I'm asking, in case you all didn't pay attention to my searching for Bobby Fischer posts, is there anybody who would like to share the championship? Ultimately, this is what it's about. It's about us, the seeker, the individual, finding our own truth. You can't have it served up to you on a platter. It doesn't matter who we are, or how much we think we know. We have to appreciate it, find it ourselves, and it's there to be found. That's for sure. Okay. Just a few throwaway comments. A lot of it will be like that. Maybe it won't take too long to go through everything. There are two paths you can go by: God or dog, forwards or backwards. Once again, these are all just tools that you are being taught um, in terms of a later application to a greater puzzle. Just forwards and backwards, inversions, mirroring. This is how we have to treat everything and see what reveals itself. Yeah, look at all these pictures taken away. So half the thread is gone, but not to worry. Feel much participation in this thread as well. There seems to be a lot, or there was a lot. Yeah, I won't read. I'll just read the comments of the main poster now. So, okay, we're up to page 4 already. Didn't expect to get there that fast. Okay, I'm not gonna. Right, here we go. Back to jar face again. August 22nd. LOL, he laughs out loud. LSD, you've seen the sky with diamonds. LDS, Latter-day Saints. Right, so he gives a link to golden plates. He said, the golden plates lay hidden deep in the mountainside until God found one faithful in whom he could confide. A record made by Nephi, written in days of old. Now in the Book of Mormon, the story is retold that the LDS Children's Songbook. The golden plates, he says. It is known that Joseph Smith had other sacred relics in his possession beside the Urim and Thummim when he was translating the Book of Mormon. He had an ancient breastplate, which Orson Pratt described as a sacred plate having a divine relationship to the Urim and Thummim. Marginal note to D&C 17.1, 1891 edition. Brigham Young maintained that the breastplate had divine properties similar to those of the Urim and Thummim. Indeed, it was an Urim and Thummim fixed on the body into which one could lock by faith and spiritual exertion, like looking on a mirror, and the information he needed was there obtained. See also Leonard J. Arrington, Susan Arrington Madsen, Mothers of the Prophets, Deseret Book Company, Salt Lake City, Utah, 1987, page 15. Finally, in September 1827, after 4 annual visitations of the angel, Joseph brought back to his parents' home a box containing gold plates and placed it under the hearthstones in the west room. Lucy wrote that after he returned from the hill, her son said, "Do not be uneasy, mother. All is right. See here, I have got a key." Lucy said the key, presumably the Urim and Thummim, consisted of 2 smooth 3-cornered diamonds set in glass, and the glasses were set in silver bowls which were connected with each other in much the same way as old-fashioned spectacles. Lol. P.S. I love you. So pretty much what he's saying here is this is very reminiscent of Alice in Wonderland and Goldbug and Edgar Allan Poe's story. And here is this is the story of Joseph Smith and how he came by the Book of Mormons, right? So it's all theater. It's all theater. Maybe maybe Jarface was genuine in some sense. Like, put it there, Dad, I love you. He's obviously clearly made a personal break to you and has sort of seen the light in terms of the greater story that's been presented within Sergeant Pepper. So he's getting emotional. Their uncle said, so he's getting thankful. Thank you for walking in her parade. Help me fix my hole. I will always love you. Okay, lovely. Just a few minor posts here. Okay. So he just made a comment here. Forward, Liverpool. Reverse, loop or evil. The right path leads you out. Which path is left? It is a correction. Aye, aye, aye. What a lovely conundrum. Okay. It's all this sort of stuff, but I mean, yeah, he goes through. There's much more to come in terms of the cover itself, so don't worry about these little minor posts. I am get so he every song. This is what he's talking about. That you see these connections everywhere. It's like when I made the connection to Alice in Wonderland, Flat Earth, the Dodo, and all that. You see all of these things everywhere. Then it's sort of like everything is hidden in plain sight, and when you see it, um, then you see through all of these different connections that are laid before you. I am jailed to shed my guilt. My love is all that must be spilt. I have the strength to walk by love and wear her chain. She wears my glove. I found a treasure that I sought. The gift is love. It can't be bought. I became a believer when I picked up the receiver and made the call. Now everybody's got something to hide except for me and my monkeys. I have no more than I did before, but now I've got all that I need. For I love you and I know you love me. There are two chords to be found, law and love. I choose the right chord. You gave me the key. Thank you. I finally came to understand the Beatles were a cover band. Okay, I don't know what that's about. Jaraface says, sorry for the crypties, everybody. I'm not trying to mess with you. And you can ignore it. You can ignore it if you like. He will post some more good stuff soon. It's a quote from Lenny Bruce. Well, I was just trying to make a point, and that it's the suppression of the word that gives it the power, the violence, the viciousness. Okay. I'm flying through it. That's already page 4. Two paths, two roads diverge in a yellow wood. And I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Two palms, two trees, the tree of knowledge, know and ledge, knowledge. The tree of life, the ballad of Jenny Ledge. Corn dogs, delicious cake on the outside, but on the inside it's a weenie, sort of like Big Head Todd in The Monster. See, a lot of these cryptic sort of clues that go over my head anyway, or cryptic comments. But yeah, let's continue on. Mad as a Hatter. Oh, what dreams may come. The band begins at 10 to 6. Okay, here we go again now. And unfortunately, the image has been removed. Yeah, so here he says, I know there are many here who feel that this kind of response is head games, and it is. However, in this case, I will not go so far as to say that it is done with any malice, though it indeed can be done with malice. No, in this case, it is done with malus. and that can make a person feel just as bad. What IMI is saying, if I may be so bold, is that every person here is free to do the work necessary to understand the mystery that is before them. The mystery is presented in a language of wordplay, picture puns, mirror images, and other head trips. I've tried to show you some basics of how to read this language by giving you explicit explanations for certain things. You must pay attention to who is on the cover. You must find out who they are, what they did, said, wrote, painted, built, etc. You must pay attention to what their name is. You must be alert to how they are juxtaposed on the cover with respect to one another. You must notice little details like where the TV antenna points, where Tarzan is looking, the emblem on Ringo's hat, the ornament on Diana Dore's wrist, the fact that John French's horn has no mouthpiece. You even need to pay attention to which particular picture of a person was selected. Is it a still form from a movie or a photo from an album cover? Which movie, which cover? There are all manner of tricks used to hide secrets in plain sight. Yeah, so it is pretty detail ingrained, right? It is, and I never liked that. That's just stuff just I could do it, I suppose. Just it doesn't come naturally for me to do it, and I always took a sort of more standoffish approach. But now that I can see that Jarface, even though he can see all of these puns and these connections and a greater story being told, he certainly was he a flat earther when he wrote this? I probably think he was, but maybe not. But he certainly doesn't incorporate it into the greater puzzle, and it is a fundamental part in the greater puzzle. So anyway, let me continue, and I'll go on for a few more minutes. The brightest wish that I could wish upon this lovely day is just a wish until I give some lovely thing away. A celebrated Mr. K, Rockin' Robin Hood, Hawk in H.A., kin good. Some fool burst a blood vessel with a pestle. First it held the pellet with the poison, but after the chalice from the palace was broken, it held the brew that was true. Food for thought, okay. Man, it's on page 5 already. Okay. So this photo of Shirley Temple was used on Sgt. Pepper. You can see it right next to Diana Doors. It is a promotional still from the film Bright Eyes. The film takes place primarily at an airport. Introduced the song On the Good Ship Lollipop, features the same dog that played Toto in The Wizard of Oz. This is what you have to do, people. Collect all the relevant facts about every item on Sgt. Pepper, even if they seem unimportant. Then, using every angle of wit and wordplay you can think of, you must search for the connective tissue. You have to go to town at the library. P.S. Look at her hat, broken wings, or propeller head, or both. Haha. It's very fiendish, right? Outside the grasp of most people. But yeah, not to worry, not to worry. Dr. Livingston, I presume. H.M. Stanley Livingston. Stanley, okay. Stanley, okay. Stanley Martin Lieber, co-creators of Magneto and Titanium Man, amongst others. The Fantastic Four, created by Stan Lee, debuted in November of 1961. Brian Eppers met the Beatles for the first time in November of 1961. Funny story, the day the Fab Four signed with Eppers, January 24th. January 24, right? Jamie, if you're listening, 24,888. 42 backwards, 1962. Is the day my lover was born. Okay, that's personal. Our anniversary is March 30th, the day of the Pepper shoot. We've been together since 1997. Well, are you sure you have nothing to do with the Beatles? Okay, I'm not going to read. He gets back to the cover itself. Quick Smart. Again, there's lots of different contributors. That's what it's supposed to, isn't it? No. Oh, this would be a good one to read as well now, because they're associating Sirius with Paul, and again, everything's intimately connected with 9/11. If you could turn out the lights, if we just switch off the sun when the Twin Towers were said to have fallen, right? When you look through the archway in, I think it was Washington Gardens, uh, you could see the Twin Towers through the archway. That if you could just switch off the light, the very moment the first tower fell, second, yeah, the second tower fell first, which was crazy in itself. Yeah, if you just switch off the lights there, when viewed through the archway, Sirius was above the second tower, which fell first. Uh, 30 minutes later, and you could do the exact same thing, switch off the lights, Sirius would have been there just above the first tower when it fell. And this post goes into perhaps something connected with that, but I'm not going to read it now. Yeah, again, I put the link in chat earlier. Definitely a thread. Maybe everyone should think about going through themselves. But okay. Okay, here we go. Jarface, another substantial post. The little white car in Shirley Temple's lap is pointing to the letter S in stones. S is where the car is going. It is an S car. Look at that S car go, snails or S snails. When S snails mate, when snails mate, they shoot love darts at one another. This is a possible source of the legend of Cupid. Here's the Wikipedia link. Love darts are also called harpoons. Here's a video of I Love Lucy. Is it a parody of a scene in the Marx Brothers film Duck Soup that involves a looking glass? Marx is on the pepper cover. How tricky. Looking glass, love, Lucy, a harpo, lampoon, a harpoon, a love harpoon, a love dart, loved art, loved art is loved art, the source of Cupid. Cu is copper, you are under arrest, crying cryogenic frozen. Cu is Cu, ICU is icy you. Is it time to unfreeze Pepperland? And look, I mean, I do talk about language as well, and how it's so malleable, and depending on the speaker, depending on the listener, you can have two different images kind of poles apart that are formed, and it's this malleability that is certainly used to its fullest effect in the likes of Sergeant Pepper. Much of it's beyond me. Much of it's you know I just saw, hang on, I got a bit distracted. Didn't Stephen Christ, what, this is back in 2009, surely Stephen Christ, uh, is it time to unfreeze Pepper? Didn't Stephen Christ say something about that? Little darling, I see the ice is slowly melting. Little darling, I see the ice is slowly melting. Is that it now? Rain freeze? No, hang on. Maybe it's not the same Jesus Christ or Stephen Christ. Okay. I hope somebody else will get this and point it out, but since somebody did, the phallic lucky fucky sucky doll is connected to Peter O'Toole, from one dick to another. A Peter, why is it Peter a pecker? A Peter, is Peter, I never heard of a Peter in terms of, I never heard of a slang name for penis, Peter. Hey, hang on now, what's going on? Let's see, lots of the stuff removed here. That's not the point, just making my way through it. Perfectly understand that there's no one listening at this stage. I think more so than anything else is the sort of general idea that's been and trying to let you see as well just how intricate it all is and just how interconnected it all is and significant it all is. Um, one so insane that tried to fight him, just couldn't beat him. This manic depressive who walked in the ring. Again, I don't know what that's about. Okay. A bit of harmless word and picture fun. I am the donut. Torres, Taurus, right? So we have a Taurus field, the Torah in terms of the Jewish book, Taurus, the bull, um, multiple meanings, the same as all of the phonics, right? A lot of stuff's very sort of cryptic as well, but anyway, more silly love schlangs. This is the hill camera, circa 420 AD. Fuck off! Look at that. 420 AD. Um, look at the description box there. Behemoth. 420 AD je suis dodo. Uh, so this is the hill circa 420 AD where Moroni allegedly buried the gold record, a sword of Laban, and a diamond-looking glasses. In 1827, Joe Smith allegedly dug up the gold record, the sword of Laban, and the diamond-looking glasses, and hid them in his mother Lucy's house. This is the hill Cumara today. This is another. This is another kind of hill cum ora, also known as Oregon, courtesy of Aubrey Beardsley. This is the state of Oregon. Okay, Oregon. Okay, very good. Oregon. Oregon's statehood anniversary is February the 14th, aka Valentine's Day. It is the Beaver State. The capital, Salem, is the cherry city where by chance I was made, strangely enough, honor about Valentine's Day. Okay, that Oregon surely got a whole lot of love. In case you can't clearly read the above envelope, that's the Pioneer Mother located on University of Oregon Duck campus. Pioneer, that's just too funny. Oh, I mean wonky. Duck. I guess some of those jokes will go over the heads of most. Here's Brando, Mix and Wild from the Pepper's cover. If you mix Brando and Wild, you get Brandon the Wild, who allegedly watched Paul McCartney write the song Wait during the filming of Help. So intricate, isn't it? So a little pun, someone made a little duck quorum, please. and he rolls on the floor with that the Mormon church is organized into and governed by male priesthood quorums. Naturally, there will be both big and little ducks in those quorums. So this guy asks a question, George, Jarve, by any chance, are you just trying to say that anything can be twisted and interpreted to mean anything? Which in effect is true, of course, but such a lovely word, jousting, should have its own thread, I think, sort of like the song association game. That's the trouble with casting spells. You never know how your crackpot magic Gina is going to twist your words. Gina is 11, and the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick, and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. And they said, Go to, let us build up a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build a city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth. And from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. P.S. The very point of this thread is that the solution to Sergeant Pepper's enigma incorporates this kind of wordplay, which suggests that this kind of jousting belongs right here in this thread. This is Dion. This is H.G. Wells. This is Orson Welles. Okay. Little video there. I'm not going to play. I'm not going to play, excuse me. As I said, this is not going to be for everybody now. And I'm doing this mostly, in one sense, for myself anyway. Okay. This is Tyrone Power, aka Tie Power, the ties that bind us, right? Here you can see that John, George, and Paul have ties, while Ringo wears a mock turtleneck. Lewis Carroll writes about the mock turtle, and Ringo plays the role of the mock turtle in the 1985 television adaptation of Alice in Wonderland. So Ringo clearly has looking glass ties. Back to Ty Power. Here he is in the film Brigham Young, where he played the role of Jonathan Kent. Here's another Jonathan Kent. This is C. Lark. This is Clark, as in Clark Kent. C. Lark. And finally, this is the seahorse. Okay. Speaking of ducks, this is an excerpt from chapter 3. To chapter 3 of Alice in Wonderland, where we find our dear friend the dodo. Found what? Said the duck. Found it, the mouse replied rather crossly. Of course, you know what it means. You know what it means well enough. When I find a thing, said the duck. Here's to you, Reverend Robinson. Okay, very cryptic, right? Paul Simon. Paul's eye man. Paul's eye moon. Paul Simon. Paul's eye moon. Okay. Jolton Joe has left and gone away. Hey. This is Marilyn Monroe who married Jolton Joe DiMaggio. It is reported that he was a slugger in more ways than one. Jolton Joe has left. He probably had a wicked left. Hey there, Seamus. This is Jolton Joe, and now to make things more light or black, this is Jolton Joe. And again, hot drinks or not, For the body or belly. Okay, this is Jolton Joe. Who do you suppose Oscar Hammerstein is discussing under the covers of this song? Poor Marilyn Monroe ate bloody betel nuts, i.e., she ate beatings from the glove of the slugger, Joe DiMaggio. Bloody Mary from the South Pacific. Bloody Mary is the girl I love. Bloody Mary is the girl I love. Bloody Mary is the girl I love. Now ain't that too damn bad? Her skin is tender as DiMaggio's glove. Her skin is tender as DiMaggio's glove. Her skin is tender as DiMaggio's glove. Now that ain't that too damn bad? Bloody Mary's chewing betel nuts. She is always chewing betel nuts. Bloody Mary's chewing betel nuts. But she don't use Pepsodent. Now ain't that too damn bad? Okay. Voulez-vous, pardon my buggy French, something about flies. Some people call me Maurice because I speak of the consonants of love. Apologies to brother Steve Miller from my butcher cover. So anyway, speaking of beatings and scarlet letters with lies, somebody got clubbed in the head by hyperbolic cosine. I think the math people write that kosh, if I'm not mistaken. Then there is that out of nowhere double, Jeffrey D twist at the end, something to do with power and the key to everything. Power, no power. Once upon a D trick. All you need is love. Thus saith little Anna Graham after drinking a hair too much of that good old Bailey's. Okay, he gets back on track. Not that he's off track now, but I guess, like me, many of you are not following as well. But I'm just going to continue reading anyway. There's no place like home, brother. Can you take me back? The man of SN, a cowardly, scared Jim Crow, sold out for cashes, surrendered to the clay. We are all clay too. Philosophers, rolling stones. Doors means of gold. Gold stones and ruby slippers follow the yellow brick road. Attention mounts. You score an Oz. Ole. Tim Oz, man. Right. This is corn semolina, aka my grits. This is the Son of Man by my grits. My grit. This is semolina, my grits. Maigre, played by Charles Lawton, climbing up the Eiffel Tower. Charles Lawton played the role of Captain Kidd. Charles Lawton was also good friends with John F. Kennedy. Um, and he played the role of Captain Kidd, you know, the pirate who buried Poe's Goldbug treasure. This is Oscar Wilde. This is Charles Lawton. Maybe he had pictures in here before or something. This is Charles Lawton in the film adaptation of Oscar Wilde's Canterville Ghost. Oscar Wilde wrote a play called Salome, which is about the stepdaughter of Herod Antipas. You know, the sweet young thing who requested John the Baptist's head. Aubrey Beardsley, shown below, created illustrations for Wilde's Salome. So it's just a one big interconnected thread that has been unwoven and unraveled. This is one of Beardsley's Salome interactions, their illustrations. This is Charles Lawton who played Herod and it is in the 1953 film. This is George Bernard Shaw. The third act of Shaw's Man and Superman is called Don Juan in Hell, in which Charles Lawton plays the devil. Charles Lawton plays a lawyer, Sir Wilfred Robarts, in Witness for the Prosecution, also starring Dietrich and Power. P.S. Charles Lawton played King Lear. It's a real ton of laughs, laughed on, right? A ton of laughs, okay. God bless Brother Burroughs, will he? Roll the floor laughter, Robber and Ruse, France's very own D, Laughing Lamberton, and roll over Beethoven. This is William Claude Duncanfield, aka W.C. Fields, W.C. Double, U.C., W.C. Painting my room in the colourful way. Two are flying and one is gliding. So this guy comments the same. He says, you're funny more than half the time. I have no idea what you're posting about or how it connects to the subject. However, it makes for good entertainment and a laugh or two. And we're even short of half of that because uh, I'm sure many who are listening are going, "What the fuck is going on?" And Adam A4 is definitely confirmed in his thoughts that I am a shell, a time waster, a dodo shell. But yeah, I'm going to keep reading anyway. Your point being well taken. I find it quite amusing that one interpretation of SS, a secret society, Lady Madonna says, the beats goes on. Can you dig it? Okay, I think I'll just get to the end of this page and I won't go any further because it's just getting late here again. This is H.G. Wells, who wrote The Island of Dr. Moreau. This is Charles Loudon in his role of Dr. Moreau for the 1933 film adaptation, Island of Lost Souls. And yeah, no spill blood. Hi, hi, hi. Hi, hi, hi. Do a Roadhog. Co-starring, wait for it, Charles Lawton. There's a lot of Lawton. That's a lot of Lawton, right? Again, Charles Lawton had a big connection with JFK and a troupe of actors, insiders playing a role. Okay, I'll make this. Yeah, this is the last post, and there isn't much to it. Last post and chorus. Um, the title of the film could be interpreted to mean flowers in the dirt, since a mar is a scuff, scar, blemish, etc. Lily mars are trampled flowers, meaning deflowered virgins. The film is by the four Warner brothers, Harry, Albert, Sam, and Jack. The film is parodied as Sgt. Pepper's by four Fab Warner brothers. Hey there, Thames. And Charles Lawton is nowhere to be found. I laughed on. Okay. Okay, it's mad, isn't it? It's mad and it's fucking confusing. And yeah, we're only up to page 8. Everything will sort of pan out as well. I'm just sort of like an introduction into this Mad Hatter world where nothing seems to make sense. But once I continue reading, maybe tomorrow, the next day, or whenever, um, yeah, it should sort of come together a lot more. And uh, again, all of well, what you sort of have to learn is how all of these tools are used to tell quite a different story than what is presented on the surface. And it's via understanding this wordplay um, that we can arrive at and come to uh, well, ultimate truth. I think ultimately this is what it's all about: um, truth without and truth within. So yeah, I know tonight wouldn't have been for for everybody, and I can't help that. I do encourage everybody to read the thread themselves. It's a grander story than Sergeant Pepper's. It's not just about you having. Well, I'm not interested in the Beatles. Never a fan of them, so not interested in this. That's not the idea here. This is, as I say, they're a connecting point between the past and the future. The Beatles and their album Sergeant Pepper's 50 years ago. So think of it in those terms. It's as alive today as it ever was because it's a greater story interwoven um, into everything to do with the Beatles. So it's that time of the night again, friends. I'm just going to continue reading that the next time as well. Um, do a bit of talking about other things, but just make my way through that anyway. And once again, not to be selfish about it, but it's sort of for myself, but it's also for people who are interested in trying to figure out this bigger picture because yeah, we're sort of somewhat seeing or somewhat getting a grasp on the tools that you need to sort of use or to understand tools that are in use to put across this greater message. So let me leave you with the usual my parting glass and say thanks for tuning in. I haven't even been to chat, so I hope everything went okay there. And until the next time, farewell to all. Oh, of all the money I spent, I have spent it in good company. I know the harm that I did, alas, it was to none but me. And all I've done for want of wit, to memory now I can't recall. So fell to the parting glass tonight, and joy be with you all. If I had money enough to spend and leisure time to sit a while, there is a fair maid in town that solely has my heart beguiled. Her rosy cheeks, her ruby lips, how she has my heart controlled. So full to the parting glass, good night, and joy be with you all. For all the comrades that e'er I had, they're sent for my going away. And all the sweethearts that e'er I had, they wish me one more day to stay. But since it falls unto my lot that I should rise and you should know, I'll gently rise and I'll softly call. Good night and joy be with you all. I will gently rise and I'll softly call. Good night and joy be with you all. Good night, friends. I love you, Steve.